Hello, and welcome to another Let's Read. How are y'all? Y'all's is. Put an end to your bad day? I got you. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. Just going to watch The Strange Thing About the Johnsons, but we'll be back. Howdy, Joel. Hello, Taurus. Come back soon. You love my voice sound? Thank you. You doing some laundry? Good. Yopan. Yep. We are back to the land of the rising crust. Which, in my opinion, would be such a badass commercial tagline for Pizza Hut, maybe in Japan. You're watching the movie Run on Hulu. How is it? Derek Weber, big fan. Big as in like bigger than King Kong. Cheese in the rising crust. Perhaps. We'll have to think about it. Japan stories. Hey, you noticed Lazy Masquerade does another Japan stuff lately? Did he? Did he? Let me check. Whoops. Lazy Masquerade. Boston's most disturbing unsolved mystery. The real-life parasite incident, which I guess that was Korean, right? Disturbing cases with chilling evidence. Man, like the one that he did about the, like, princess, or no, the queen, and the person, like, coming over the thing saying that the queen couldn't be, like, reborn or something weird like that. Like, that shit fucking gave me the spooks. Give me the spooky wookies, I tell you what. And by that, I mean diarrhea. You're currently taking Japanese 101. Let's go. Like the language, or just learning about, like, Pikachu or something? From what I hear, a lot of people who are, like, quote-unquote weebs, aka very much into Japanese culture, some people would say that they're a bit taken aback by the expectation of what Japan is supposed to be and what it actually is. I guess that would make sense. Who's my favorite male singer and female singer? Thames. No, I don't know. It's a good question. There's a lot of them out there and they all sound quite nice. You lived in Japan for about 2 years, stationed at Yokosuka. Never heard of Yokosuka before. Did someone say weeb? We got a new age one. Where are the subtitles? Weebs visit. Yeah, where are the subtitles? What genre of music is this? This is carbon-based life forms, which some might call like Psy-chill or Psybient. Psy-trance. Do you draw all the art on your pages? I do not. No, that is various artists, but most of the time it's Robin Mikalsen doing all the thumbnails. But Derek has actually been helping me a lot with my thumbnails on my Let's Read Clips channel. Play the Risk of Rain soundtrack. Yeah, what kind of music is that? Is it... I feel like it would be pretty intense. Rose said I need this to be dubbed for Joel's live streams. Yeah. Somebody's gonna have to dub over my live stream so you understand what I'm saying. You love carbon-based life forms? Me too, dude. I'd love to go to like a live show of them. It'd be sick. Have I found a social media assistant yet? Oh, Papina Dolce with the 5 says, Yo, Joel, what's up? Narrating legend. Dare I say narrating God. Hope all is well with you and Pradeep. My mom is Japanese, and I was born in... What's it say? Saizbo. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. I apologize. Japan's. So tonight's stories will be interesting to hear. Love your work. Peace. Thank you, Pepino. And that's awesome. Do you ever get to visit there much and see all the good? It definitely seems like a very peaceful place. But I feel like deep down there's like sort of like a cultural thing that people struggle with, like from what I've gathered. And you know, it's probably completely wrong, but that same sort of like meme that goes along with bringing like shame to your family and that kind of thing, I feel like that like runs incredibly deep, where there's just a tremendous amount of like internal pressure on the youth and the elderly as well throughout most of Japan. And even with all like the sort of sense of politeness that is presented, it's not quite what it seems like mentally and spiritually. Opening a gym. Thank you. D, I appreciate that. We're slowly making progress here, and who knows, honestly, it could be open within the next couple months, to be maybe even before summer. It shall be interesting. Do I like Chinese food? Oh yeah. I guess it just depends. I remember my dad worked at a Chinese restaurant in between jobs when he was delivering. He actually paid pretty decent. And, you know, he was tight with the owner, who was from Japan, or from China. And, you know, he just showed me that, like, all the food that they sold there was, like, the complete opposite of what they actually eat. He said they would never touch most of that dog shit, I guess. Will the gym be like Planet Fitness? No, it's going to be like primarily like class-based and like taking classes, and it's like kind of like CrossFit stuff. But there'll be a mix of like different things. But it's part of a larger gym, like almost like renting a large space within it. Not necessarily. Well, yeah, I guess it is renting, but so there will be other aspects of it. It's kind of nice because doing that actually instead of just going into a blank building that you're renting, it enables us a lot of like infrastructure that's already like in place in regards to key fobs and security and shower systems, all that good stuff, you know. Which I'll be sure to install cameras in there. No, I'm just kidding, but you get the idea. Like, it'll just... Teaching twerk classes, yeah. 10 hours. 10-hour classes. You better be ready to shake that arse. Your gym sucks, you need a new one. You're only going if I'll be your personal trainer. Yeah, what, you're looking to get swoly-woly with Jolie-Oly? Your mother died recently, but enjoying your readings and your humor helps me keep smiling. Much love to you. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad you're here. It's all you can do in life is just appreciate what you had and what you have right now, you know? There's nothing our family would want more for us than to continue striving forward. Where's Pradeep this time of day? He is actually right beside... Well, he's jumping down. He was sitting beside me on the chair, but then he jumped down. Now he's venturing over to the door to sniff it, giving it a bit of a sniff for whatever reason. Nothing left to do at work, so I'm chilling in the lunchroom for an hour. Is that wrong? No, dude. I think that's a natural state of being human, is chilling. If you get bored and you need tactile stimulation, I'm sure there's other random shit you can do, but you probably already know that and probably already did it, or it's whatever, you know. Literally just search Let's Read Japan Stories early today. Interesting coincidence. I know. You manifested it. You fucked it. I'm just kidding. That would actually be a good term. Or instead of manifesting something, you actually jinx it or whatever. So it's called fucking. Do I play any games, like board games or video games? Any favorites? Yeah, sadly, I don't want to say it's my favorite because it's more of a addiction at this point, but as everybody knows, Overwatch is always there. Dude, it's so weird. Like, some matches, I'll just, like, totally carry on hand soap. And then other times I just can't hit a fucking broadside of a barnyard bell. Tweak for 10 hours straight. We tweaking. But then as soon as Hanzo doesn't go well, you just go play McCree, or well, Cassidy now. They changed it for whatever reason. Barn side of a broad. We use that term when playing Magic, but it means a whole different... Oh, mana fucked. That's funny. My friend, yeah, did I tell you my friend, like, plays Magic the Gathering professionally? He travels around a lot for it and goes to tournaments and stuff. I mean, I don't imagine he makes, like, a ton of money from it, but he seems to really enjoy it and makes a lot of friends and stuff. Gets to do fun stuff. Where am I from? Pennsylvania, Turkey. Skittles, what's going on, dude? Yes, so we another 6.5 minutes or so here, and we will read some Japanese stories. Tonight we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and I believe a 14th one. And these were all kindly translated and transcribed by the great J Nightmares. So the letter J, I'll put his name into... Oh, this song's fucking great. I love this song. Put his name into the chat. You can look him up on YouTube there. But J Nightmares has an awesome deep British accent, if you like those. Well, I don't know if it's British, but English. And UKian. And it sounds great. And he's going to be at the end of tomorrow's video with that and has done all the legwork, so I really appreciate that, and hope you guys go subscribe to him. 7-leaf clover with the 220 Canadian. Thank you, 7. Good to see ya. And David De La Rosa Jr. with the 2. Says, hey Joel, ready for Resident Evil 4 remake tomorrow? I am ready for it, honestly. I'm contemplating whether or not I should play through it or watch somebody else do it. I know that sounds kind of silly, but sometimes you almost rather live life without the stress, you know? Do I have a gaming channel? I do not, no. I played games, and if you go back far enough on the live stream playlist, you will find some gameplay on there. I'm glad I caught your stream. I have to go to bed early because I'm extremely old. 32. Hey, welcome to the club, my friend. We're all old down here. And Lynn with the 2 says, getting some old Pokemon games on the 3DS. Much love. Oh, nice. That sounds awesome. Little Ruby. Royal Ruby. Do you compile and make all the videos yourself, or do you have a couple people to help you out? I have a couple people to help me out, especially going through emails and stuff like that. Trying to find. And then sometimes you have a good topic, but you don't quite have enough content, so... I also have somebody else help research and write true crime stories. If you're familiar with true crime, it's just like documentary style stuff covering things within that topic. And Sarah TR with the 2 says, sorority row or scream? Poll. Sorority row or scream? I certainly can do it, but I don't think I've ever seen sorority row. And I've only really heard of Scream. I haven't actually seen the movie. Sorority. Someone should name their daughter Sorority. That'd be really funny. Or Scream. Hey, there's Skunk Daddy. What's up, buddy? We're doing a really important poll that you must participate in. It is live now. Cast your vote, or forever hold it inside ya. David De La Rosa Jr. with the 2. Thank you, David. And Skunk, I love the new video. I saw it pop up, and I'm like, I have to watch this, and I did. Just made a huge batch of curry. All right. Is that just like the goo, or is that the? Is that like have other items within it? You voted. You've never seen either. Oh my goodness. That could be dangerous for the democracy. Liam Ludlam, welcome to the Butter Sock Cult. You now have access to bonus content. Also, Skunk, do you recognize the music in the background? Hey Joel, big fan. I used to edit bike videos and I did so on YouTube. BMX videos. I miss editing. Now I'm a construction worker. I pour concrete and walls and stuff. Well, Patrick, the cool thing is that you can still edit just for fun. You could even take other people. You know what you could do is you could make like cool edits and just go find like people who are kind of like popping off in the world of BMX, show them some of the edits that you've done for them, and then maybe like kind of promote, you know, say like, hey, I would do this for you, you know, as a professional thing and stuff. Do I edit? You know, I don't really, I know how to edit and I've got an ear and an eye for it, but I don't do a whole lot of editing on my videos. Sounds familiar, but can't put a finger at Sarah and Sunday. No, that would be great. This is carbon-based life forms. This specific song is Hydroponic Garden from their album of the same name. Would you do bonus content if I wrote a story called How I Found Out That I'm the Antichrist? Well, you know, I certainly wouldn't mind looking over stories that... Oh, you would be cool, but you have kids and a job too hard. No, that's fair, that's fair. At that point, you kind of, you know, you don't want to expend all your creative energy when it's not going to be worth your time, or, you know, or kind of is like a little bit of a risk. Not a risk necessarily, but you definitely want to put your time into family and doing fun things. Yo, I call my neighbor Skunk Boy and his dad Skunk Daddy. Long story short, Skunk Boy's hair is just like a skunk. Holy crap. Maybe this is him. He's one of my mods. Your neighbor's kid is one of my mods. Skunk Boy and Lava Girl. But when I did editing, Media 100 was still new software and we didn't call them apps yet. That's okay. Always, it's crazy, honestly. Like, soon we're just gonna like get to a point where editing really is as simple as the AI art, like typing a prompt in. Broccoli animation videos with you are credible. Thanks. Go tell Broccoli I said thanks. Thanks for the candy. My friend Broccoli. When they go to, I'll have time for creativity, but thank for that idea. It's true, I could still edit. Yeah, no, it's all good. Oh shoot. It's Reedy time, baby. Let's make the transition. Bong. You're not ready for the AI takeover. You know, I don't think any of us ever will be, but they weren't ready for the telephone either, but we made it through. Now all the couriers who had to carry messages from town to town, and text messages too, between the king and their harem. As soon as they invented cell phones and texting, that was completely thrown out the window. Liam Ludlam with the big 20. Thank you, Liam. Thank you, thank you. Appreciate you. And Cacao Farmer with a Fiverino from Australia says, Konnichiwa. Would love to send you some true crime scripts. Yeah, absolutely. Do it up. Let's read submissions at gmail.com. Oh, fuck. I forgot to take my magnesium pills. I'm dead. I'm essentially dead. Midnight Blue has been a member for 6 months today, but a subscriber for 8 years. Always love the stories and listen to your voice. Love you. Thank you, Midnight. 6 months. That's crazy. I think you can actually share that too through like a notification. If you click somewhere, just start clicking. I think it should work. But I appreciate you. We got some dark ambient music coming soon for a little bonus content. That's it. That's over. The stream is over. Goodbye, everyone. Shot Clan with a big 20 as well. Thank you, Shaz. I fall asleep every night to you. Thanks. You're welcome, Shot Clan. I appreciate you. It's good to see you. If anyone sees this, please send help. Alright. So we got a million stories tonight. We got over 1 million. And we'll see how this goes. This is actually kind of from the 2chan website, doing translations there, but I believe it's not quite as wild as 4chan in the sense of believability, so I'm hoping for some solid ones tonight. Hiya. Okay. Let's do it. Let's smoo it. Let me make sure my microphone is clear. We're good. We're Gucci, Lucci. This happened about 10 years ago. I was attending a really terrible university. I was working 4 nights a week, and I could afford little more than dinner each day. Rent and gas money really killed me financially. I really needed a job to survive. This all happened before I was working. It was summer of my 2nd year. It was one of the hottest days of the year. On days like that, I always went to study on campus to enjoy the free air conditioning. In the library, they have a bulletin board where anyone can post any personal adverts and all that kind of stuff. I often check the board because sometimes you could pick up some easy work. For example, you could do high school students who were looking for a tutor and that kind of thing. Other times there would be interesting advertisements too. Study a foreign language with me. I like the sense of community. You'd see stuff like that. When I approached the board that day, I saw the following advertisement. Cleaner wanted to help clean a room. 5,000 yen per half day. Please contact Tanaka. This was some good timing because I had just taken a test and was about to have a week off. 5,000 yen was a lot to me. It's about $45. That would get me back to my hometown for a couple of days, I thought. As soon as I got back to my dorm, I immediately called the number provided. Hey, I'd like to apply for that cleaning job you posted. The voice on the other end of the line responded, and it sounded slightly bewildered. Oh, right. What days can you work? I told him that I work for the full amount advertised. Can you start at 9 a.m. next Tuesday? I agreed and gave me the address. Whoops. Schwoops. Schwoopsie poopsie. Sushi, 2 shoes. Welcome back for 2 months. You can share your milestone by clicking onto donations and down at the bottom in your milestone chat. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Sushi, for letting us know. I feel like there's probably a lot of people who might not know that. So it's good. It's good. It's good to spread the knowledge. You're a weeb, so Japan stories are perfect. Let's go, dude. They have Tuesdays in Japan. Believe it or not, they follow the same calendar as us. Except February always has 48 days. I agreed, and he gave me the address. It sounded like a residential address. I guessed by his voice that he was... Oh, dude, I just had an idea for a creepy popsta. What if during the leap year, where there's like a... I don't know. This might work, but basically it's like that day where there's 29 days or something instead of the 28 in February, right? What if... I don't know, it could take place in Japan or something, and then basically on that day, if you were in a particular house or something, you would get caught in that day, or would you just basically be stuck in some sort of like Silent Hill-esque area or something for the 4 years until that leap day came again and you could get out? Or something. I don't fucking know. I just like typed that up. I don't fucking know. I don't believe it. That sounds horrible. Perfect. Yeah. Sounds like a terrible story. I agreed, and he gave me the address. It sounded like a residential address, and I guessed by his voice that he was a man in his 30s, and he sounded a little sick over the phone. My first day of work arrived. The morning was hot, but the sky was free of clouds. When I arrived at Mr. Tanaka's house, I felt the breeze of his air conditioning, and I was worried that I was going to be working without one. I arrived 10 minutes early at 8:50 and rang the doorbell, and a man came in. Wait. When I arrived at Mr. I felt the breeze. Oh, okay. Trapped. It's called Groundhog Day. Yeah, but for 4 years. I don't know exactly how it will pan out, but we can ask ChatGDP. Let's ask ChatGDP right now. Let's get completely off track instantaneously and ask ChatGDP to write something scary. Verify that I'm human. Bing bong bing. Even though it's not human, so why is it judging? It just wants to know that it can kill me. Alright. I'm writing a creepy pasta about February 29th. If you get caught in this house in Japan on that day, you are stuck there until for 4 years. Is it 4 years or is it every other year? You were stuck there for 4 years until the leap year returns. What? Can you write some creepy stuff that happens in the house? Here we go. It's gonna say, I'm sorry, as a AI... Wait, didn't I say 4 years? Stuck there for 4 years. Time loops. As soon as you enter the house, you realize that time has stopped. You can see the clock ticking, but nothing else is moving. You try to leave the house, but you find yourself back at the entrance, reliving the exact same moment over and over again. Every time you try to break the cycle, something inexplicable happens that keeps you trapped. Strange noises. You hear footsteps, whispers, and other unexplainable sounds coming suddenly, like coming from empty rooms. You follow the noises, but they lead you to dead ends or disappear suddenly. The more you try to investigate, the louder and more persistent the noises become, as if something is trying to lure you deeper into the house. Shifting rooms. The layout of the house keeps changing, making it impossible to navigate. You enter a room, and when you leave it, you find yourself in a completely different part of the house. The walls, floors, and ceiling seem to be alive, pulsing and breathing like a living organism. The more you explore, the more disorienting and claustrophobic the house becomes. Haunted objects. You find old photographs, toys, and other objects that seem to have a life of their own. They move, disappear, or reappear in different places without any explanation. You hear voices or laughter coming from them, and they start to glow or emit a strange energy. The more you interact with them, the more they seem to possess you. Supernatural entities. You encounter ghosts, demons, or other creatures that inhabit the house. They appear and disappear suddenly, leaving behind a trail of destruction and terror. They feed on your fear and confusion, playing mind games with you and making you doubt your own sanity. The longer you stay in the house, the more powerful and dangerous these entities become. Time distortions. You start to experience strange phenomena related to time, such as time slowing down, speeding up, or reversing. You see shadows or reflections of yourself from the past or future, or you witness events that haven't happened yet. You feel like you are living in a parallel universe where time and space are twisted and distorted beyond recognition. Mysterious messages. You find cryptic notes, letters, or symbols that seem to hold the key to your escape. They provide clues or warnings, but they are written in a language or code that you cannot decipher. You feel like someone is watching you, manipulating you, or trying to communicate with you through these messages, but you cannot trust anyone or anything in the house. Alright. That kind of sounds like a pretty good video game or something. Sounds like literal hell, yeah. Well, there you go. if you guys want to go make a video. Yeah, ChatGPT gonna wipe us out. Yeah, it just made one of the coolest video games of all time. Just like that. Dawn, welcome back for 2 months. Says, I've been listening forever. It's the only way I can sleep. Thank you for the story. Love your voice. Thank you, Joe. You're welcome, Dawn. Appreciate you. Sleep is very important. If you don't at least get 6 to 8 hours, you will explode into pieces. So I'm glad you can get it. And Internet Grandma, welcome to the Buttersock cult. You now have access to bonus content. Also, how you doing, Grandma? Good to see you. Sounds like an aspiring high school horror fiction writer submitting to lecture. Yeah, it does, kind of. But I feel at the same time, even though some of those do sound kind of cliche, if done correctly, it could be pretty sweet, I think. Chat PT, yeah. Remember that? What was that? That game was called PT, right? Whatever happened to that? I arrived 10 minutes early at 8:50 and rang the doorbell, and a man came and answered it. Right on time. Come in, he said. He was a bit awkward, not one for chatting, and he wouldn't look me in the eyes when we spoke. I took my shoes off and followed him into the house. After we introduced ourselves to one another, he explained what he needed. It was pretty easy stuff. Help with moving heavy things, trips to the garbage dump, and some other light cleaning work. I was shocked by the things that he was throwing away. They may have been trash to him, but to a student like me, they were treasures. Treasures. What if you get there 4 years late? Oh, then you missed it. You missed living in hell. Hideo Kojima and Konami have falling out, so PT went nowhere. Damn, that's unlucky. Dude, Skunk, I was wondering if you were gonna hear that, because I believe it. Did you ever be around somebody so often you pick up on their tendencies? But I would listen to Charlie say S's as SH's all the time jokingly, and it just it happens all the fuck. Yeah, yeah, by both of you guys getting fucking poisoned of the mind. That's so funny. I was shocked by the things he was throwing away. They may have been trash to him, but to a student like me, they were treasures. He must have been... Whoops. He must have seen me admiring these things, because he said, "If you want to keep anything, it's yours." So I sorted some things into a sort of keep pile, and can't remember exactly what they were. I think there were a couple of games, some books, maybe a dirty magazine too. We were cleaning the room at a decent pace. I was kind of enjoying it, to be honest. Before long, his room started to look really good. Maybe we'll call it a day here. I felt him suddenly look my way. It looked like he was pretending to think about it a bit longer, and then he said, "Yeah, that's enough for today." Because I had worked a lot longer than half a day, he doubled my pay. I couldn't believe my luck, and then he said, "Are you free tomorrow? For half a day?" I was over the moon to get another chance to make some easy money, so I agreed. I got on my bike with all my cool new stuff and told him that I was looking forward to working with him tomorrow morning. When I got to his place, I found the door open. I craned my head around the door and he called... Whoops. I craned my head around the door and called out. He asked me to come in. He was grinning when I walked in. "I have your money here. I'll leave it in this envelope over here." Whoops. Shit. He grabbed me by the hand and led me to another room. This was weird. His whole attitude seemed different. In this room, there was a walk-in closet. There was a heavy-looking suitcase, sort of like for travel. "This thing's so heavy. I need your help to help me move it." "This is how it's going to work. I'll push from behind, and on my signal, I want you to pull as hard as you can. Is that okay?" He hopped over the suitcase and went into the walk-in closet. I couldn't see him beyond all the jackets, shirts, and all that kind of stuff hanging up in there. After a while, Mr. Tanaka shouted, "Pull! and as per his instruction, I pulled the suitcase as hard as I could. Oops. I thought I heard something, but I realized it's the fucking litter box like scraping itself against a bunch of big piles of shit. It just sounds like a screaming cat. I'm haunted. It's Mr. Tanaka. He's here to clean my butt. Hannah, you can't leave, dude. After a while, Mr. Tanaka shouted, "Pull!" And as per his instructions, I pulled the suitcase as hard as I could. It weighed so much, but what in God's name did he have in there? I wondered. It must have weighed almost 60 kilos. It was moving little by little, dragging slowly across the wooden floor. There was a clattering sound, and suddenly the suitcase felt incredibly light. "Mr. Tanaka?" I called out over and over, but there was no response. What was this? Some sort of game he was playing? I didn't understand. There was still that rattling sound, but it had gradually quieted. 10 seconds or so had passed, and I couldn't take it anymore. I pushed the shirts and jackets aside, and I'll never forget what I saw. I saw Mr. Tanaka in the closet, hanging from his neck. He must have been either sitting or crouching on the suitcase I had pulled away. He was suspended on the clothes rail in there. I ran over to help. I tried my best to pull the rope from around his neck, but it wouldn't budge. My mind raced with panicking, disjointed thoughts, then one clear one came to me. I need something sharp to cut the rope. Mr. Tanaka wasn't moving, and this was really bad. The rope was way too thick for scissors to be of any help. I had no choice. I had to try and get a neighbor to help. The police and ambulance services arrived. I was interviewed by the police at the scene. My parents traveled up, and when they arrived, I remember I just broke down, bawled my eyes out. Mr. Tanaka was taken away in an ambulance. He lived through the night, but passed away in the morning of the next day, and I couldn't save him in time. The least I could do for him was to finish the cleaning. I thought that it would help me to... This is actually like insane, kinda. 60 kilos. How much is 60 kilos? 132 pounds. Why is that? Why is that in Japanese culture that suicide is like such a prevalent thing? I just don't get it. I mean, obviously I don't, because it's not me, but I don't know. The least I could do for him was finish the cleaning. I thought that it would help me just to do... I thought that it would help me to do that too. The least I could do for him was to finish the cleaning. I thought that it would help me too to do that, but it was so much in the process. I made sure his apartment looked good, though. I had some strange compulsion to finish his final request. I went to take my payment, and inside the envelope was a note as well as the money that he had promised me. The note revealed that he had been laid off. His company had been looking to make cutbacks. Shortly after he found out his wife... Well, shortly after he found out, okay. Shortly after he found out, his wife had been cheating on him with another man. His debt and loans seemed insurmountable to him, which is why he decided to just end things. At the end of his note, he apologized to me for all the trouble he had caused me. He explained how he needed assistance to go through with it, and the cleaning job was just a ruse to get me to help. I showed this note to the police, and it put me in the clear. Police even let me keep the money. About a week went by, and Mr. Tanaka's sister got in touch. He had long been estranged from her, and she revealed a certain truth that hasn't set well with me, and I wish that she didn't tell me. Mr. Tanaka was a believer in a certain dangerous cult-like religion. In that religion, the act of taking one's life is considered Seppuku. In that religion, the act of taking one's life is considered a terrible sin and is prohibited. If you did that, then you would be condemned to hell for... I don't know why, I need to put on some fucking lip lube. Respect is life in Japan. It's just weird though, because like, it sounds like a lot of it is like based on your perception of whether or not people respect you. So it almost makes me wonder then, are Japanese people like incredibly, like, because they're so self-judgmental on themselves, does that make their culture incredibly judgmental of others within their culture as well? You know what I mean? Because I assume you can't really have one without the other. Otherwise, it would just sort of be like everyone perceiving everyone else judging them. Because I know, or at least around here, it's like you can sometimes perceive people to be judging you, but in reality, nobody really cares that much. Like they'll give a passing judgment or say something that might feel hurtful if you heard it, but in reality, most of the time, people only really have about 15 seconds to think about you prior to them going right back to thinking about themselves and not really giving a shit. Mr. Tanaka was a believer in a certain dangerous cult-like religion. In that religion, the act of taking one's life is considered why do I keep fucking, like, jumping all over? In that religion, the act of taking one's life is considered a terrible sin and is prohibited. If you did that, then you would be condemned to hell for all eternity. So, he couldn't take his own life, and that's why he needed me. I was given 100,000 yen, or $900 from his family, and his estate for all the trouble that he had caused me. According to Mr. Tanaka's interpretation, am I now a murderer? I wonder if I'll go to hell for killing someone for 115... I wonder if I'll go to hell now for killing someone for 115,000 yen, or $1,050. You can share this story if you feel compelled, and I just want to thank you for listening. You're in a hologram? Good. What is suicide? Yeah, I guess if you want to... I guess drinking can be kind of considered a slow suicide for sure. I used to joke about that whenever I would go get, like, cheat day meals. Someone would say, hey, what are you up to? Oh, just slow suicide, eating french fries and disgusting goo to feel good for 10 seconds. And then bad. Hey, Mar, what's going on? Ritual suicide was done by samurais. Yeah. So, it sounds like something deeply seated into their culture from a long time ago. And I imagine from those, because it wasn't that long ago in the 1800s that the majority of their culture was still participating in sort of, tribe-like traditions. So to kind of go to, like, the modern westernized life from that, I'm sure that there's still, like, generational pain getting used to that kind of stuff, even if it's evolutionary pain as well. I'm sure a lot of people here feel that where you're stuck in some office job where the sense of respect that people have for each other is all based on material goods and things of that nature. What's my heaven look like? I don't know. Sometimes I think about that. Like, I want to go there, but then, yeah, it's a good question. Like, I have no fucking clue what you even do when you get there. I always just assume it's like some crazy shit. Something you just can't even comprehend. What's up, Andrew? Heaven is where the roads are lined with video games. Yeah. It's just like one big GameStop, except all the tiles have fallen, all the game cartridges had fallen from the racks and laid in the streets like cobblestone. Everyone stays inside and does LAN parties and online and wears VR in heaven. As a Japanese, I would never move back to Japan. Interesting. Would you feel comfortable elaborating on why that is? My hometown is surrounded by mountains. I spent many happy years playing with my friends in those mountains, building bases, hide and seek, you know, the type of thing. The thing I enjoyed doing the most was exploring. Those mountains felt as if they were ours. One afternoon, my friend circle had grown a little bored of the standard forest trails. We wanted a little more adventure, so we decided to go off the beaten path. A decision that we didn't know at the time could have been life-altering, or even life-ending. We wanted to walk where others hadn't, so we headed deeper into the mountainous woods. There were a few of us, and it was late in the summer. The trees provided a lot of shade, so it felt cooler than it was. Even as young as I was back then, I knew the risks that we were taking, so I brought something along to help us not get lost. I lifted this little spindle of string from the art room at my school. I tied the end to a tree close to the forest trail so that we would be able to find our way back. It felt like a foolproof idea at the time. The ground was really uneven off the trail. It was littered with stones and dead tree limbs. We didn't mind it really because it made us feel as if though we were on an expedition. We were out in the elements and there was nothing but the sounds of our labored breath and the distant trill of insects. It was amazing. After walking for about 10 to 15 minutes, we came across a small hill. We climbed the hill, and when we got down to the other side, it opened out into a kind of clearing. I distinctly remember a big rock there. We figured that this would be a great place to take 5 and drink some water. One of my friends brought along some candy, so we were just tearing into that. And while we were taking a break, I noticed something strange. I almost missed it, but once I spotted it, I had to just go over and take a closer look. There was a toy lying on the forest floor. It was a toy for kids a little younger than us. We were in the 4th grade at the time, and once I announced my discovery to my friends, they all came over to take a look, and our expedition turned into an investigation. It wasn't just the one toy. There were others. Hot Wheels cars, and someone found a doll. Fear crept up on me. Seeing these objects in a place that they really shouldn't be frightened me. Maybe it was because at my age, my toys meant the world to me and I'd never leave them lying around, especially not in the forest. I was worried that something had happened. We all stood around puzzled until one of my friends yelled out to us. He was pointing at something a little outside of the clearing. We all raced over to look at what he was pointing at, and this is where things became a little difficult to explain. There was a kind of altar constructed of clay-like mud. It was the weirdest thing. It was definitely a human construction. It didn't look natural. And this kind of altar construction was a hollowed-out section, and in that section was an object. I couldn't make out what it was at first, but it looked like a photo. Well, we just had to find out what that photo was. Whoops, that sounded weird. Well, we just had to find it. Green tea flavored Kit Kat. I know, yeah, I've seen that one before. It's interesting. How much have you missed, Shanus? We honestly just missed one story. These are pretty good so far. I'm feeling good about this one too. Queef Sweat, what's up? Your dog is staring at the TV, looking directly at me. Okay. Oh, the matcha Kit Kat, yeah. Well, we just had to find out what the photo was. Well, that just meant that we had to find out what the photo was. The photo was dirty and it looked as if though it had been out here for a while. The photo was of a girl. It looked as if it was commemorative. It looked as if though it was a commemorative photo, you know, like one that you might see at a graveside. That photo looked as if though it had been snatched right out of a cemetery. The forest around us, which was our background for the adventure, took on a different vibe. It seemed as if though we were somewhere we shouldn't be. It seemed as if all the calmness in our day had gone. I felt as if though someone I felt as if though someone could be out here with us, watching us. All of a sudden, I didn't want to be off the beaten path anymore. There was something so illogical. God, I'm fucking up here. There was something so illogical about what we were doing. There was something so illogical about what we were looking at. The toys, the photo, the weird mud construction. It was just wrong. I wanted to run, and one quick glance at my friends' faces told me that they were on the same page. We followed the string back to the trail. We weren't in the mood to talk anymore, and I didn't feel like myself until I got out of those mountains. Since that day, I never played off the trail. I still have a general idea of how to get to the clearing where we found that weird altar, but I have no interest in returning. My mind tortures me with questions that I can't answer. Why was that photo there in such a remote location? And the toys? Was it some kind of grisly memento of something that happened to the girl of that photo? Were we looking at some felon's trophies? The other thought that came to mind is that perhaps the family who lost that girl couldn't afford a... The other thought that comes to mind is that perhaps the family who lost that girl couldn't afford a burial, and through perhaps shame, they created their own memorial site in an isolated location where they could mourn without disturbance. If that's the case, it's heartbreaking. It didn't make sense. Nothing about what I saw that day all those years ago made sense, and this experience lives with me. Illogicable. Hey everyone, in your help, trying to make a short survey for an assignment. Needs to be related to school, university. Any ideas? Let's ask ChatGPT. We'll just have ChatGPT do all of our homework forever so our brains turn into mush. Alright, you need a survey. Trying to make a short survey for an assignment. Needs to be related to school, university. Any ideas? Can you make a short survey related to school? Here we go. Sure. Here are some questions for a short survey related to school. How do you typically get to school? Walk, bike, public transportation, carpool, drive alone? 2. How many hours of homework do you usually have per night? Less than 1 hour, 1 to 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours, more than 4 hours? 3. How many hours of sleep do you usually get on school nights? Less than 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours, 6 to 7 hours, 7 to 8 hours, more than 8 hours? How often do you feel stressed or overwhelmed by schoolwork? Rarely or never, sometimes, often, almost always. 5. How would you rate your overall academic experience? Excellent, above average, average, below average, poor. Do you participate in extracurricular activities or clubs? Yes, regularly. Occasionally, no, not at all. How satisfied are you with the quality of education you're receiving? Very satisfied, somewhat satisfied, neutral, somewhat dissatisfied, very dissatisfied. Have you ever experienced bullying or harassment at school? Yes, frequently. Yes, occasionally. No, never. How would you rate the safety and security of your school? Very safe and secure. Somewhat safe and secure. Neutral. Somewhat unsafe and insecure. Very safe and insecure. Very unsafe and insecure. How often do you communicate with your teachers outside of class? For example, email, office hours. Frequently, occasionally, rarely, never. Boom. Homework done. Why do short surveys suck? I don't know. Yeah, they're always just a pain in the butt to do. I would get them on YouTube from time to time, and I would almost like do them because in my head I'm like, maybe if I do them, they'll give me preferential treatment. That never happened, so. I sound like the Micro Machines guy? Who's that? Joel understood the assignment. Not as well as ChatGPT, though. So If you guys want, just come to this stream and I'll help you cheat at school. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't come to the stream. Come to the stream, but don't ask me to help you cheat at homework, because I'll probably do it. Ask, what does your name mean? Alright, let me see. What does the name Eugenia mean? Right? Did I spell that right? Eugenia. Let's see. It takes a little while. It's trying to be like, what the fuck is that name? Never heard of that. No, I'm just kidding. You submitted your homework an hour before the deadline. The trick is to go all the way up to 11:59 and just sit there and hold it. The name Eugenia is derived from the Greek Eugenia, which means well-born, or it's taking forever to type it too. Sometimes you have to stop the generation and then just do it twice, so it's fast. Come on. There we go. Well-born and noble. It is derived from the Greek words eu, meaning good, and genes, meaning born. The name was popularized during the early Christian era, as it was the name of several saints and martyrs. In modern times, Eugenia is a relatively uncommon name, but it is still used in many parts of the world. So it means good genes. You've got the good genetics. You're noble, or noble-born, or well-born. There you go. Maybe you're related to a king or queen. Please ask him how to express discrimination. No, we can't do that. I'm fairly certain that I've seen a lot of just like stuff where it's like, I can't say that. That's bad. Which makes sense given the context, if it wants to be like the next Google or something, you know? Which so far I would say it's actually been way better than Google. Not necessarily in the fact that it's not necessarily a search engine where you can go to like websites and stuff. I mean, I guess you could ask it. Can you give me some websites for fun flash games? That's what a 7th grader would ask it. Sure, here are some websites where you can find fun flash games. Miniclip. Oh shit, I haven't heard of Miniclip in forever. Congregate. Armor Games. Addicting Games. Wow, these websites still exist. I haven't been to Addicting Games and oh my god, it still exists. Holy shit. Pogo. These are just a few of the many websites where you can find fun flash games. Enjoy playing. That's so funny. Yeah, it's called ChatGPT. It's like a language AI, and you can sign up for it. I think you should have access to the general public. I signed up for it because it was from OpenAI, which did the DALL-E art stuff. But I will be honest, like DALL-E 2 is pretty good, but it's still it's like not as good as Midjourney, honestly. All right. I want to tell you a couple of stories about when I used to live on the streets as a homeless man. It was terrible doing so. The stares and the looks of disgust were nothing compared to the violence I endured. I got into an altercation with some guys one night in a park in Tokyo, and I was beaten to within an inch of my life. I had to get out of the area as I thought that they would be back. I remember moving from place to place, and it was all a bit of a blur. Somehow I ended up way up in the sticks, close to the mountains, and eventually I ended up living in an abandoned shrine. It wasn't so bad. I would walk down to the village and exchange my labor for food in the village. You might think that living in an abandoned shrine might be scary, but I can tell you that there was only one thing that I was scared of at that time, and that's people. I would offer my services to anyone who had any work available. I like to think of myself as a jack of all trades, an all-rounder. I would often go to ask people in the streets or go door to door trying to drum up some work. Once a guy asked me what services I could offer, and I said pretty much anything. He then pulled a gun out, cocked the trigger, and put it against my head. "It's loaded," he said. You can imagine how I felt, right? He put the gun away and said, "I just wanted to point a loaded gun at a human." And then he threw me some money my way and just left. I guess that the cash he threw was what he demanded the value of my life to be. And not long after that, a gang found out where I had been living. Jesus Christ. Just cocked against like the internal desires of an average Japanese person, just to fucking blow someone's head off. I want to know what it feels like to be American. You wish Midjourney would figure out hands? Yeah, actually version 5 of Midjourney, which recently came out, is pretty good with hands now. Handshakes, all that kind of stuff. Like, just, it's not perfect, but it's like probably 85% of the way there, I would say. Not long after that, a gang found out where I had been living, and they came late one night. When they found me, one said a phrase so off-putting that I don't think I'll ever forget it. "You have no human rights." He had already dehumanized me. They carried sticks, iron bars, and metal pipes and came at me. It was too late to escape, and when they were through, I was left with a broken leg. It was torture. At the same time I experienced such a lack of humanity, I also experienced the opposite. The farmer that I had worked for in the village brought food to me when he had heard about the gang attack and even paid for my hospital bills. If it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have been found, and that sounded weird. Walt, baby, what's going on? Oh, you can drink. Who's drinking coffee this late? Don't do it. Imagine a Japanese version of the steamroller story. We might get one tonight, who knows? Being from 2chan. If it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have been found, and I might have starved to death in my makeshift home. There was no way that I could have got down that mountain to the village with a broken leg. I owed that man my life. I asked if there was any way that I could repay him, and he just replied, why don't you try and grow some vegetables or something? Make yourself a living. Pay me back something when you get set up. There's no rush. I learned a lot about agriculture working from him. Fuck. Hey, Allie Herbert. Is it Herbert? Hybert. Sorry, it's a little hard to see there. But thank you for the 5. So still my favorite live. Thanks for being here. You're welcome, Allie. Thank you for the kind words and support. Appreciate you. Anybody go to a chiropractor at all? I went to one today, and it just seems like it was, I don't know. They wanted me to go I've been to them before, and I feel like I had time for it, but it just seemed like such an involved process. It was like I was going to have to go to classes, two classes, and then go 3 times a week, which I just wasn't really sure if I'd have the... Your chiropractor touched you? Oh my god. Report them. I just don't think I would have the time to kind of... And it was weird too, because the adjustment today, it seemed very minute. There was the neck cracking, but I feel like for the most part it was just kind of generalized, minute sort of interaction, or pushing and stuff. You prefer massage therapy? Yeah, I kind of wish there was a place I could go to around here that was it did all... it did massage therapy, chiropractic, and some stretching all in one go, because that would be freaking sweet. You put your wrist back into place, then tape it with electrical tape. Really? They taped it? Classes for what? I don't know. It's just generalized health stuff, going over diet and going over random posture. I'm dude, I am not, as a grown-ass adult who doesn't need to, sitting through a stupid fucking class about, diet. I can just watch shit on fucking YouTube if it really mattered. I don't know, it just seemed like a really big time sink, and I could not, I learned a lot about agricultural work from him. Even when he gave me a method to repay his generosity, I felt like I was still getting more than I was giving. The soil by the shrine was hard and not much would grow, but I was determined to pay him back. I would go to the river countless times a day to fetch water, and eventually I made some serious progress. This joy was short-lived, though. A group of people who were into urban exploration came to the abandoned shrine and trashed my little farm. They stomped all over my plants. Why? I had nothing, yet people still wanted to take from me. And something snapped in me. I felt robbed and I wanted someone to pay for it. I kept a two-boy fool. Uh-oh, this guy's about to go fucking postal. Sit up straight. Actually, yeah, I'm at my stand-up desk. I'm doing some stretches. Are you guys doing stretches? This is just too much. My chiropractor visited with 3 times a week. Only lasts about 10 minutes, but over time went down to 1 day a week, then once a month. Yeah, that's kind of what is anticipated, but I don't know. I just want to come in once a week and just have him fucking break my bones and have him send me on my way at like a convenient time. But for some reason it just seemed like it was, and it's like more expensive. They don't accept the insurance. But then they're like, I don't know, you could send in a voucher or something. But I'm like, I know for a fact that if I even talk to my insurance about some sort of voucher, they're just going to laugh, you know? They're going to like, oh, us giving you money? How about you go fuck yourself? I kept a 2x4 with me at all times. I decided to be ready for whoever wanted to mess with me. Living that way made me happy. Fight or flight, a return to animal instincts. I knew that all humans were capable of terrible acts, and I grew less trustworthy. I was always scared of spirits and ghosts, but humans are worse. It was at this point that I started seeing things. I thought the shrine was haunted. I decided that there was something else with me in the shrine, and... Oops. Ash M with a 3. Thank you, Ash. Thank you. How are you? I'm sorry that Squid Story was probably hard to read, but I'm glad you posted awesome. Hey, Cole, no, that one was actually written incredibly well. I posted you as Anon because I saw that or I don't know if it's you, and I apologize, but I saw that I posted as anonymous as the credit because I saw the story was deleted, but we still had the text, the person that helped me compile or get the story. So first I want to say that was a fascinating story, honestly. It was like one of the best written grammatically out of everybody, so thank you. And living out in the sea for me was always like something I thought would be really cool, but anytime I've ever even stepped foot on a boat, I don't know why, especially deep sea, even on like a big cruise boat that I went on once, which I don't suggest anybody do because they're just big expensive malls, and I got sick on it. I don't know, I just get fucking seasick when I'm out there. I can't help it. I decided if there was something else with me in the shrine, I wanted to be okay. I see. I decided if there was something else with me in the shrine, I wanted to be of service to the shrine since the farm wasn't working out. I had learned some carpentry. My brain's already poopied. I had learned some carpentry skills when I was younger. I thought that I would try and clean up the place and mend some things. Maybe if the shrine looked a bit more maintained, it would keep the urban explorers and the gangs away. Being busy took my mind off the hate for those things who... What? Being busy took my mind off my hate. Oh, okay, I see. My bad. Maybe a single screws? Yeah, that probably would have been more fun. And Rowdy, welcome back for 2 months in the Buttersock Cult. Good to see you, my friend. What's good, mijo? Nothing much. How are you, Jorge? Can I narrate your life? I could. But I would also bring around a big horn. Remember Family Guy? Being busy took my mind off of my hate for those who sought to hurt me. I started to speak to God, or whatever the spirits that... Whoa! I started to twerk. That's what I did. Ooh, ah. Ooh, ah, ah. It's so delayed sometimes, I'm sorry. Ree with the 30. Thank you, Ree, for the big twerkable amount. Says, okay, Joel, you better work. Okay. Work it. I need a glass of water. But thank you. Now I'm seeing all the peaches and cream. But thank you again, Ree. Appreciate you guys. Speak to the twerk god. I started to speak to God, or whatever the spirits that inhabited the shrine were. I'd say hello and goodbye. At first to myself and then quietly, but in the end I was talking loudly like there was someone with me. Eventually the shrine looked pretty good and I started to see the ghost again. She was a beautiful woman and she was so pleased that I cleaned up the shrine. She would just sit there and comb her gorgeous hair. Sometimes I wouldn't even see her, I would just hear some rummaging noises. I felt that I had some company and I enjoyed it. The gang came back one night, the same gang which attacked me and broke my leg before. They laughed at me when I called out for help, when I called to her, but they weren't laughing when my friend who owned the farm arrived with his hunting rifle. They never came back after that. Since he saved me, I decided to stop being so hateful and I put that energy into agriculture. I still needed to pay him back even though he wasn't expecting anything from me. I was determined, and through years of hard work, dedication, and support from my friend, that sounded weird. Miho. A hunting rifle in Japan? Yeah, I don't know what they're... I know the cities definitely don't have any guns, but I'm not sure what they're... Out in the rural areas, like I'm sure there's got to be the ability to have some sort of firearm in the rural area to defend yourself, seeing as there probably wouldn't be much response time at all from the popo. I was determined, and through years of hard work, dedication, and support from my friend, I managed to hone my skills. I found some land to rent, used it, and did well, and I kept repeating. Now I own several plots, and I have several employees. I usually offer work to those who are in the same positions as me, homeless. And as for my friend, I paid him back. I bought him several plots of land by the mountains. Finding a partner hasn't really worked out for me, but whenever I am down, I seem to dream about the spirit of the woman in the shrine. Sometimes I think that I was rescued by someone other than my farmer friend. So my next project is restoring the shrine to its former glory and reinstating a priest there. It's almost impossible to get a gun there, period. I don't know, I'll have to look into it. This guy, I guess, had one. Shotguns and air rifles? Yeah, maybe he had a shotgun. I mean, it sounds like he didn't use it, so I'm sure the homeless guy who was hallucinating ghosts probably wasn't in the greatest recollection of the mind. Life at the shrine, that old smile, okay. The juiciest peach. Millions of peaches, peaches for free. No, spiders. Okay. My friend has an older sister, and we all think that she's being stalked. It's ongoing, but I want to share what's happening currently. My friend's sister has been staying with my friend for a while now to get away from it all and repel her stalker. She said it's like living in a nightmare. I wanted to do something nice for her, so I offered to take them both out for dinner to take their minds off of things. We sat down to dinner and things were going well, until I saw my friend's sister's face drop. She began to tremble, and I felt bad for asking them to come out. Maybe it was too soon. Then she muttered, "He sat behind me." I looked behind her and I saw an old man with an unnaturally creepy smile. He was peering towards our table. He made me feel nauseous. He was just gross. He was the stalker. My friend had seen this guy following her sister before, so we were beyond it being a coincidence or a case of paranoia. My friend had had enough. She stood up and went over to his table and said loudly, "If you don't stop following my sister, then I'm going to the police." A few tables of people look over, but the old man just sat there smiling that insane smile. After a few moments, he got up and stepped away from his table and left. Red Lobster. His expression didn't change, he just kept smiling. We thought that a bit of public embarrassment might be enough to put the creep off and make him leave my friend's sister alone. We were convinced that it would work, and it turned out to be a correct prediction. Over the coming days, we would all joke about how easy it was. Everything came to a standstill for her sister, and a sense of normality was resumed in her life. However, just as soon as it ended, it seemed to start again. This time, the old man's target of torment was different. This time, he was stalking my friend and not her sister, and he was a little more cunning in the method of stalking this time around. The old man began to haunt her life. He would just appear any place that she went, but always at a distance or appearing inconspicuous. I'll give you some examples. If she was out taking a walk or simply heading home, the old man would appear on his bike riding towards her or from behind her. He would smile that creepy smile of his as he passed her by. He would be there during a rush hour in the subway where crowds are gathered, and it made her feel as if though she couldn't escape from him. In places where it was difficult to move or get away quickly, she'd see that weirdo in his smile. But enough was enough. My friend went to the police, and unfortunately they weren't able to help. They said that because he hasn't actually done anything except smile at her and her sister, they couldn't really do anything about it. She left the station frustrated and with a feeling of vulnerability. The old man and his behavior got worse, though. He was everywhere. She thought that the police might be in... Melissa Jordan, welcome to the Buttersock Cult. You now have access to bonus content. Thank you, thank you. Got some white tail spiders around here. Someone, if anyone wants them. White tail? Spiders with tails? What the fuck? Burn it, yeah, burn it all down. She thought that the police might be able to intervene when she saw him at the college on campus, but again, they weren't able to help or offer any kind of protection. To the untrained eye, he was just an old man who was walking around smiling. What's the harm in that? She tried to mobilize all her friends to help to discourage his behavior, but to our surprise, some of her friends didn't believe her. They said that she was grasping at straws. She must have felt quite alone at the time. I believed her, though. I had first-hand experience. I saw the creep with my own eyes. Plus, anyone who knew my friend well enough would say that she is far from a liar or an exaggerator. It was helpless. Every day she grew more nervous and worn down, and every day the old man just smiled at her. She never did anything, and he just watched her and continued to smile. She eventually dropped out of college and has grown less and less responsive to my calls and messages. I haven't really heard from her lately, and it's really worrying me. I feel as if though we are right on the edge of something happening. Maybe I should speak up and yell at him like she did for her sister, but if I did, that wouldn't he... Maybe I should speak up and yell at him like she did for her sister, but if I did, then wouldn't he just start stalking me? I don't know. Recently, I got in contact with their sister and I asked how she's doing. She thought that she was just wrapped up with studies. She didn't know what had been going on. I don't know what'll come of this, but I'm hoping that she's just laying low for a while. And I hope that creep hasn't escalated his stalking. Okay. The hyperactive rabbit of the chat is back again. Boom. My kind of consciousness belongs to AI. Do you think we'll worship AI soon? Let me ask ChatGDP. Do you think we'll worship AI soon? As an AI language model, currently there's no evidence to suggest that we will worship AI in the near future. While AI has made significant advances in recent years, it is still a relatively new technology and we are still exploring its full potential. Moreover, the concept of worship is typically reserved for religious or spiritual practices, and it is unclear how AI would fit into those frameworks. That being said, there are some researchers and futurists who speculate that as AI becomes more advanced and human-like, there may be some individuals who developed emotional connections with AI and even consider them to be a form of deity. However, this is largely speculative, and it remains to be seen if it will ever become a widespread phenomenon. You don't need to worship little old me. I just want to say I love your channel, your voice, and overall everything about you. I go to sleep every evening to your voice. My husband says, no, I can say I sleep with two men every night. Yeah. Just me tucked in between the two of you. But be careful. I do wet the bed, so be prepared for that. Completely soaked. We need Arnold to destroy the machines. We do. Come save us. Come save us now from the scary AI. Worship means to serve, like do work. I think there's different definitions for worship. Some people might just get on their knees and say, I love you. It's a god, it's a god. I work at a funeral home and we have a crematorium at work. This happened not too long ago, but I don't think I'll ever forget it. One morning I was sweeping the entranceway and a black SUV pulled into our parking area. A middle-aged man got out and I could tell that he was wealthy. I clocked the Frank Mueller watch on his wrist. Nice. He came over and inquired about a cremation service. Well, he literally said, "Can you burn a body for me?" I was taken aback by that statement. Normally, we are contacted by family members of the departed, and they don't always arrive with the body in their car. Then, of course, we need a certification of death and some other documentation. We need to be informed ahead. Yeah, a casual crematorium, a drive-through crematorium. We needed to be informed ahead of time because we need to make preparations. He said that he called my boss already, and the boss agreed to cremate the body today. His tone was pretty aggressive. He said we needed to get this cremation moving fast. I asked him to wait for a moment while I went to check with my boss. I felt kind of nervous. This seemed highly unusual. My boss was the director of the funeral hall, and he said that we have to do the cremation as fast as we can. This was really weird. Why are we doing these things so different today, I wondered. I couldn't do anything about it, though. It was just my job, so I went to open the ovens. I saw the body. It belonged to a man who looked to be in his early 30s. I'd seen a lot of corpses before, but there was something slightly different about this one. His cheeks seemed pink. I usually check the corpse before burning. It's part of the rules here. And I noticed that it was very clean and appeared to be without any trauma. I put the body into the coffin and pushed the coffin into the cremation ovens. After about 20 minutes or so, I heard this dreadful noise rising from the ovens. It was like a banging sound. Everything suddenly was plunged into darkness all around me. Life felt incredibly cold as I asked myself the deeply troubling question, was he alive when he went in there? What hurt the most was the fact that there was nothing I could do, because 20 minutes in the ovens at heat that... What hurt the most was the fact that there was nothing I could do, because 20 minutes in the ovens at heat that high, everything is already burning. I couldn't move. My limbs were shaking with fear, and I felt paralyzed. Was I hearing things? I couldn't be sure. Usually after an hour, everything in the ovens is reduced to cinders, but I couldn't stand that. I needed to know. I managed to pull myself together and stop the ovens, and I noticed that the rich guy wasn't around anymore. I was really so scared, so I asked my boss to open the ovens with me, and I told him that I heard a noise while they were on. My boss opened the ovens, and all the stench of grilled meat invaded our nostrils. It was kind of like a barbecue smell, and it lingered in the air. My boss then pulled the main tray out so we could see, and the body was half burned. It was facing down. I was pretty certain that he wasn't facing downward when I put the body in. I was sure that the man was still alive when he was brought in. I imagine while the ovens were on, he was turning and doing anything in his power to escape. I hadn't been hearing things, and I was completely destroyed by this realization. This has never happened before. Never had I seen the body turn over during cremation. I was sat in the main hall with my head in my hands, struggling with the weight of the situation I was in. My boss came over to me and handed me something. 10 million yen, which is about $77,000. He told me that telling my story to anyone wouldn't be worth it. People wouldn't believe me, and reminded me that the rich guy I met at the start of the story wouldn't be... The ovens. He told me that telling my story to anyone wouldn't be worth it. People wouldn't believe me, and reminded me that the rich guy I met at the start of this story wouldn't be very happy if he heard that I was talking about what happened today. I quit that job, obviously, but now I'm living on the money that I was given until I get a new job. I'm not myself anymore. I can barely find the energy to get out of bed. I can't really sleep these days. My nightmares are filled with the memories of that day. And sometimes I dream that I'm the man in the coffin, and I feel the heat surrounding me. I kick and scream, and then I wake up covered in sweat. I am not doing well. I'm not doing well. For those wondering, I am not doing well. Yabba dabba doo. Long pork, yeah. Why do they call it long pork, though? I don't get that. Actually, let's ask. Why do, Jesus Christ, they call human meat long pig? I gotta say, as an AI model, I'm calling the police. Nobody cares. Trey, you need to chill out, bro. Because humans taste like pig, do they? The term long pig, actually, KTG, welcome to the Buttersock Cult, my friend. You now have access to bonus content. Do you have a favorite musical artist? I listen to a lot of stuff, just all over the place. Why do they call it a driveway where you park, but a parkway where you drive? I don't know. The term long pig is a colloquialism that is believed to have originated among certain indigenous tribes in Polynesia who were known to practice cannibalism. It was used as a euphemism for human flesh, which some of the tribes considered to be a delicacy. According to some accounts, the term long pig was used because human flesh was said to taste similar to pork, and because the limbs of a human body could be seen as resembling the shape of a pig. However, it's important to note that cannibalism is a taboo practice in most cultures, and the use of the term long pig is considered highly offensive and disrespectful to many people. It is not a term that should be used lightly or without a thorough understanding of its historical and cultural context. Thank you for chastising me for even asking the question. I appreciate that. I'm a bad person. And now I know what my next Overwatch username will be when I finally get banned again. Hey everyone, Long Pig here. Actually, it would be a pretty good YouTube channel name, Long Pig. You do like horror content. It's very offensive to cannibals. I don't like people knowing that they eat people. I've been canceled by ChatGPT. It's nice knowing, yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Like AI, like I'm sure like they'll use AI to hack stuff, and like AI will always be like a trillion steps ahead of you. You know what I mean? I main Roadhog. He's the real Long Pig. He shoots his long rope out. I'm pretty excited for season 4 because they said there's quite a few reworks coming. They're changing Cassidy's fucking grenade. I think Roadhog and Brigitte. Bridgie. Anyway, season fork night. When I went back to my hometown last year, something really weird happened. It started when the neighbor across the street warned me that there was a suspicious... I can't fucking enunciate all the words. It started when the neighbor across the street warned me that there was a suspicious person in the area. Apparently someone was going around ringing people's doorbells at around 1 a.m. in the neighborhood. My neighborhood said that they ignored the doorbell at first since they were in bed since it was so late. Everyone in their house was in bed asleep. The doorbell kept ringing, so my neighbor's husband got out of bed to see what was going on. He took his phone with him so his wife could listen. He asked through the door in a quiet voice, "Who is it? Is there some type of emergency?" And then a man's voice responded, I made a promise to Sarah. Can you let me in?" There was no Sarah in the house or my neighbor's family, and because it was a newly built house, there was no former resident called Sarah either. So he explained this to the stranger at the door and told him to get lost. "But it's a promise. I remember it well," the stranger said. "Oh, I promised... What is it? Well, I have a promise for you." Oh, that's good. "Well, I got a promise for you. If you don't go away, I'm calling the cops, okay?" The neighbor's husband called the cops anyway because the guy outside didn't show any signs of leaving. The police arrived quickly, but the man at the door was nowhere to be seen. So the neighbors warned us to be careful just in case he decided to come back. We spoke about it at dinner that night, and I remember my parents were making sure everything was locked when the sun went down. Later that night, my dad and I were in the living room watching TV. It was just after midnight, and the doorbell rang. I really didn't expect it, and I could tell neither did my dad. There we were, 2 full-grown men afraid of the doorbell. Before assuming that it was the weirdo who called at my neighbor's house, I actually went and checked. He didn't have a way to check outside, like those ringing doorbells, so... Oh, whoops. We didn't have a way to check outside, like those ring doorbells, so I crept over to the curtains. I pulled the curtains back just enough to create a gap to look outside. Through the gap in the curtains, I saw a man wearing a hat and a big dark brown overcoat. He was wearing boots as well. His face was hidden by the turned-up collar of his overcoat, and I couldn't really see his face. I watched as he pushed the doorbell again. My dad whispered to me to not get caught looking at the guy, so I immediately shut the curtain. This guy was definitely suspicious, there was no doubt. I mean, you wouldn't want him at your door, you wouldn't want a guy like that at your door, let me put it that way. We decided to call the police since the neighbors were already worried about the guy, but until the police arrived, we thought that we would keep him busy since last time he seemed to bolt. For about 3 minutes straight, he rang our doorbell. He was so persistent. My dad had had enough of this, so he went out to the hallway and approached the door. He stood before the frosted glass and asked, "Who are you?" "I'm the guy who promised to meet Sarah." "What's your name?" Well, is this an emergency?" "I promised Sarah I really want to come in." The guy talked in circles. Of course, there was no Sarah in our house either. If you told them that, though, he would just keep talking about his promise. It got you nowhere. He kept saying that he remembered his promise. While this was going on, I called the police discreetly. I wanted to see this guy get taken away, but he left before the police car arrived. We then heard the knocking at the door, and it was a police officer. We have a door in front of the actual front door to our house, kind of like a porch, and I was a maid. He visited a sushi place down the road. Very nice. Ona from Japan. His family, very kind people. That's good. Check out NO Studio for horror animated. They're not typical horror animations. Alright, let's check it out. NO Studio animated. Oh. This looks kind of sweet. Hair transplants. Okay. It's sort of like motion graphics or something. See, I wouldn't mind these type of like animators reading my stories because they're like, it's like simplistic. And even though it's not like a crazy amount of movement, the drawing style is actually really solid. The police are here. Almost 200 likes, yes. Keep clicking like. Click, 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 click. Carolina, what's going on? I was amazed to hear the knocking from the officer on our actual front door and not on the porch door. When the weird guy was at the door, I was certain that the porch door is shut and I didn't hear it open or close when he left. This door can only be locked from the inside. How was that possible, I wondered. It creeped me out, but my dad didn't seem to care all that much. He calmly explained the situation to the officer. He gave a really accurate description of the guy too and informed the cop that this happened to the neighborhood last night. The officer said that he hadn't seen anyone suspicious in the area, and this guy knew how to get away and fast. However, there were footprints in the snow. The cop said that he would follow them and see if he could find anything. He promised that there would be an increase in patrols and asked us to report back to him instantly if the guy came back. He cautioned us, said to try and avoid going out alone late at night and to double and triple check the doors that they were locked. This cop wasn't a new guy, and he was older than my dad, and something about this situation had him spooked, and I was getting really nervous. There was something very sinister about this guy looking for Sarah. My mother watched the whole thing as she sat on the... She took a big shit on the stairs. My mother watched the whole thing. She was sat on the stairs, and I turned to her and asked if she definitely locked the door outside the front door, that porch door that I mentioned, and she was adamant that she did. My dad could sense our nerves, and he tried to laugh it off. "Don't worry, guys. I'm sorry we couldn't get him this time." After we all confirmed and were happy that all the doors were locked, we went back to bed. I couldn't sleep much, but I went to bed. Sandra Sotelo with the 2. Appreciate you, bro. So appreciate you, Sandra. Good to see you. What's crapping? After we all confirmed and were happy that all the doors were locked, we went to bed. I couldn't sleep much, but I was relieved to see a police car patrolling the area at around 3 a.m. from my window. The next day, we heard that someone else in the neighborhood's doorbell rang. My dad was really angry at the police. He said they must not be doing their jobs right if they hadn't caught the guy yet. 4 more days passed when others in the area reported the late-night doorbell rings. Everyone said the same thing. A stranger came to the door asking for a Sarah and asking to come in. He wasn't caught. The thing I find the weirdest about this is not one person was able to describe what his face looked like. That stranger was the stuff of nightmares. I spent New Year's with my family and left to go back to my home, worried for them. About a week later, I called my mom to check in on her and get an update on the situation. The house across the street from us found a note in their mailbox that read, "Sarah's not here, but I found her. Thank you very much." The letters were painted by a brush, almost like calligraphy. I'm wondering if we'll get an apology letter too, or what it means if we don't get one. I'm sorry it sounds like a mundane story, but imagine if it happened to you. A stranger whose face no one saw in the neighborhood going around in the dead of night, talking nonsense and trying to talk their way into your home. I don't like it, and I don't like that he found Sarah either. Sarah! Oh man, I'm hungry. I'm hungry, as they say. My buddy wants to get me on like a kind of like a meal plan where I eat like 3 pounds of ground beef a day and 3 pounds of like berry-esque fruit. It doesn't sound terrible, but it also kind of doesn't sound great. I don't know. Cutting calories is such a lame fucking thing. Like, I get that you have to do it, but I don't know. I'm sure we'll be able to find other variations to meet certain macro needs or whatever, but I'm curious if it will just get like really, really mundane. In this economy? Yeah. At least it's not eggs. Eggs? Yeah, basically the idea was like it's like 3 meals a day, or you can spread it out or whatever, but you're cooking pretty much the process is like cooking the ground beef each time, but having like the fruit like ready to go, and like the fruit's supposed to be like more calorie dense than like vegetables and that kind of thing. And then, that's like when you're cutting, and then when you're bulking, you're just incorporating like rice into the mix so you can get more calories with the rice. And I guess he was saying that you didn't need as much protein as you would expect when you're in a calorie surplus or whatever for bulking, so I don't fucking know. I'll never understand the human body, I feel like. Can you eat anything with the beef? Like cheese or seasoning? I think the seasoning is definitely fine, and you could probably mix in some vegetables into it as well. But we'll see. See how it goes. But yeah, I think you can have veggies. They were just saying like you'll get really full with it and not get the calories you really need, I guess. I don't fucking know. You put the berries in the meat. I don't know, you could try it. That sounds kind of good. You do not need to cut calories. You can eat all you want. You just need to adjust your workout to your calorie intake. Yeah, but you really can't outwork a bad diet. You know what I mean? Because like the amount of time that it takes you to like work off the additional calories. I mean, because you need to be in a calorie deficit to lose fat. You know what I mean? Like that's definitely the situation there. Destiny, what's going on? This happened 2 years ago. I was fairly new to the world of work, and I had just started working for a company. Back then at work, I was working late nights and early mornings. In fact, all of us really were. Our company had a kind of rotation for this, and we had to do one late shift followed by one morning shift every week. I remember leaving the late shift after 11 p.m. on the night in question. I walked through the dimly lit underground car park back to my car. I got in, started checking my messages on my smartphone. Then, I'm actually going to call the car park a parking lot, even though this was translated by an English person. I just think it makes more sense to say parking lot. Diablo open beta time. Yeah, anybody play the new Diablo 4? When's the actual release date on the game? Do they even have one? Are you looking to cut or bulk? Your friend is smart. Protein is overrated when pertaining to everyone's unique goals. Just looking to cut. I've bulked for enough time, but I guess that's the difficult thing. It's just really sticking with it. But I imagine, like, the fact that I haven't drank any, like, diet soda in, like, almost a month now, it's just pretty sweet. Diablo comes out June 6th. Okay, that'd be fun, I think. Hopefully. I don't really want to, like, spend money just to get the early access to it when it's only for, like, a few games. I remember leaving the late shift after 11 p.m. on the night in question. I walked through the dimly lit parking lot and back to my car. I got in and started checking my messages on my smartphone. Then, suddenly, a thought came to me. I wasn't sure if I had locked up upon leaving work. As I was the last one out due to the night shift, this was my responsibility. It couldn't be helped. I summoned up the energy to head back there and check. I got out of my car and headed back to work, checked, and then headed back to my car. It was Locke. It was Locke. It was John Locke. 11K to go. I know we're getting there, Hannah. It's crazy. It's crazy. Wait. It was locked. Okay. It drops at 3 a.m. Yeah, what time's the new Resident Evil come out? I got out of my car and headed back to work, checked, and then headed back to my car. It was locked. It must have been gone. God damn it, man. It was locked. I must have been gone for all of about 40 seconds, max. I got in, started the engine, and felt a clammy hand cover my mouth. See, I gotta make that sound more scary. I got out of my car and headed back to work, checked, and then headed back to my car. Thankfully, it was locked, and I must have been gone for all of about 40 seconds, max. I got in and started my engine, and felt a clammy hand cover my mouth. Then I felt a man's hot breath against my ear say, "If you keep your mouth shut, you don't die." I couldn't speak. I was terrified into silence. I just remember waves of panic crashing over me. My head was completely blank. I looked in the rearview mirror and nodded my head. I recognized the man behind me. He worked in the same company as me, but in a completely different department. I was surprised, and against his orders, I asked aloud, "Why?" I was surprised, and against his orders, I asked aloud, "Howard, why?" No, the words just came out of me. I had never really spoken with him before. He was just kind of a quiet guy, but I knew him, and he replied, "I've been interested in you since you started working here. If you don't say you're going to be mine, I'll kill you right here." Fearful for my life, I could do little else than nod in agreeance. He then pulled down the lever of my seat so my seat went flat and began attempting to drag me into the back seats towards him. I screamed for him to stop. "You said you don't like me," he mumbled. He was trying to pull my clothes off. I thrashed at him, and I think somehow in the scuffle he hit his... I thrashed. Matthew Skeleton with the 5 says, "I never knew you streamed. I'm glad. This is awesome. Just listen while playing Persona, and it feels fitting." Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, usually every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Today is Thursday stream. And usually I'm just recording the stories that I will edit for tomorrow's video. So I appreciate it, Matthew. I'm glad you can make it. You mentioned it before, and it made my love for you grow tenfold. I'm also obsessed with the crunchy goodness. What, crunchy peanut butter? Or what are we talking about? Okay. I thrashed at him, and I think somehow in the scuffle he hit something against the open passenger door, and this gave me enough time to get free. I ran back to the company building since I had the key. I got in there, and I locked myself in. I called a male colleague who left shortly after me and told him what had just happened. I know I should have called the police, but I was in such a panic. Fortunately for me, my colleague was still in the area, and he turned around immediately and headed back to work. With him around, I felt that I was safe to unlock the door. We went to the parking lot and searched for Howard, but couldn't find him anyway. God damn it, I don't know why tonight I'm just like seeing words that don't exist. Crunchy underwear, yeah. Yum, 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 yum. We went to the parking lot and searched for Howard, but couldn't find him anywhere. It was at this point that I filed a police report. I was absent from work for a while, and I decided to use my vacation time. Dude, Jesus Christ, I just keep fucking messing up. I was absent from work for a while, and I decided to use my vacation time. I didn't want to go back there and have to talk to the gossipers. And while I was away, Howard was arrested. With this in mind, I was happy to go back to work as long as he wasn't there. I thought it was safe. When I came back to work, I was told that women were no longer going to be working the night shift alone, and the company offered to help me relocate. When I came back to work, I was told that women were no longer going to be working the night shift alone, and the company offered to help me relocate if I wasn't comfortable working there any longer. My parents wanted me to do this, but I didn't. I actually liked the job. I didn't want to let that creep make my... I just don't get it. Like, everything with the story is, like, grammatically fine. I just fucking can't... I can't make it through. Whatever. Who cares? English drunk, yeah, probably. There's probably some sort of gas down here. Some sort of methane that's gotten into my brain. Americans don't drink that much. I think it just depends on the American. Do I do YouTube full-time? Yep. I didn't want to let that creep make me quit my job. I wanted him to know that I wasn't scared. Plus, with him arrested, I didn't think that I had anything to worry about. My company informed me on my first day back that he had been dismissed, and that was really good to hear. The police were in touch, and they advised me to keep my doors locked and the usual safety precautions. They said that a momentary lapse in concentration almost cost me my life, and they told me to think about that. Take care. They told me to think about that. They said that a momentary lapse in concentration almost cost me my life, and they told me to think about that for a while. Take care out there, people. That sounds like such a weird ending. I feel like there's like phraseology in Japanese that's like directly translated that just doesn't make a lot of sense in English. They said that a momentary lapse in concentration almost cost me my life, and they told me to ruminate on that for a while. Yeah, it's the mold. The mold's fucking taken over. That ending was so Japan. This is a super Japanese ending. There was a big explosion, and like a theme song played, an outro song. Okay, so that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is story 9, and then we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. Glitched, what's going on, dude? Wants you to go buy some bear mace. You might need it. You might just need it. Ruminate on that. Beach. Beach. This happened when I was 25. I'm a female and I've been dating a guy for about a year. Things were going great, so he asked me to meet his parents. He invited me to have dinner at their family home. It was at his parents' house where something unimaginable happened. My boyfriend was from the countryside and his family still lives there. From where I lived, it took 3 hours to get there by car. When I finally got to meet them, my boyfriend's attitude towards me changed dramatically. It really surprised me. He was usually quite the gentleman, but in front of his parents he addressed me with such terms like you and oi. Just downright rude. He shouted at me using these words like he was commanding me or something. He had never treated me like this before, but since I was in his parents' home, I just put up with it and gave him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, what else could I have done? I didn't want to make a scene or embarrass him. I could see where he got it from. His dad was throwing his weight around and bossing everyone around. His father shouted some command at his mom when she was doing something not quite to his liking, and it was pretty harsh. I looked over at her, and she just kept her head down and did as she was told, like this was totally normal. His family were giving off some seriously suspicious vibes. I was starting to really regret coming, and it was so awkward and intimidating. At dinner, his father stared at me and said, "When you get married, you live here." It caught me off guard. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a joke. It was a demand. I just focused on cutting my food and waiting for my boyfriend to speak up for me, but he never did. So eventually I just said, "Well, I haven't made any decisions about that yet." His dad glared at me. He looked so angry and said, "If you marry my son, you'll live here. Got it?" And he shouted at me, aghast. I stared at my boyfriend, and he must have felt my eyes pleading with him for some sort of help or defense, but he was just as silent as his mother. It killed me when he looked at his father and just nodded. Now, more to the point, my boyfriend had never mentioned marriage to me before, so I was totally shocked by this, and to be honest, our relationship has had its rocky moments. They started speaking of specific dates for a wedding, and the pressure was starting to intensify. Later, after dinner, when I was alone with my boyfriend, I said, "Hey, I feel a bit sick, and I want to go home. Something isn't quite right." He didn't say anything, so I decided to start gathering up my things to head home by myself. Just as I turned to leave, he grabbed my arm. "Are you running away?" He boomed. He had totally changed. It was like I didn't know him at all. He forced me back into his childhood bedroom, and he overpowered me. He shut the door on me and locked it. I beat on the door and screamed for someone to let me out. I was making so much noise there was no way that no one else in the house wouldn't have heard me. Things got worse when I realized that I had left my phone on charge downstairs. I couldn't do anything. I literally was a prisoner, and I was stunned. After a while, the door unlocked and my psycho boyfriend's mom entered the room. I was pleased to see her. I thought that she had come to my aid, but my hopes were dashed instantly when she handed me some papers. "Sign this." It was a marriage certificate. "If you do, you can go," she said in a monotone voice. It was the real deal. "I won't sign that. I'll never marry him." "You think you can escape, do you? Well, go on. Try your best." She asked me to sign it again, and I told her where to go. She got up, walked out of the room, and locked the door again. I needed to stay calm. I was terrified, sure, but I needed to keep my composure if I had a chance of getting out. I decided to wait until it was the dead of night, and I turned all of the lights off in the room and kept as still as possible. Before shutting off the lights, I figured the window would be my best and only option for escape. I would just have to deal with getting an injury if it happened. I opened the window and managed to climb down into the porch roof silently. It truly was amazing. I walked all night. You would have put McLovin. Just some like innocent. I just imagine like a serious situation. A young Japanese girl, and she's just like, "Okay, fine, here you go." McLovin. Oh, McLovin. What the fuck? This sounds like a movie. Sounds like a schmovie. But I'm down with it. I think I'm turning Japanese. Okay, real question. What would happen if you wrote some random signature? Would it still go back to you? I mean, I don't know how the legality of a like Japanese marriage documentation would work, because it's like you could sign it and then you could go to the police and then explain to them that you signed it under duress if you were to go to like a wedding day or something, you know what I mean? In some sort of legal situation, I guess, like a lawyer or whatever. But in that situation, I mean, you basically would have to figure out how to, you know, run away, I guess, or just like figure out how to extend the situation long enough so that you can like get the fuck out of there. Shotgun wedding. Unless you signed it and then you were just stuck there forever, anticipating, because she would have had to like physically escape eventually. Anyways, I don't fucking know. Joel sounds experienced. Yeah, I've been in situations like this before, trust me, guys. Out in the rural mountains of Japan. I walked the whole night through to reach the train station, fearing for my safety, looking over my shoulder for that crazy mother and father. Days and weeks passed after this incident. I got email after email from my boyfriend. "You think that's the last of us? You really think you can get away? We'll not forgive this." Because I was living on my own at the time, I was too terrified to go back to my apartment alone. I asked friends and relatives to let me stay with them. I pleaded with them. One friend who lived quite far from... One friend who lived quite far from where I met my boyfriend allowed me to stay with them, and I felt safer. With the help of a lawyer and a support group, I achieved what he told me was impossible. I escaped from him and his family. I hear from friends and neighbors from my old life. They say that they have seen him hanging around my former apartment and my old hangouts. Even though I live miles and miles away from him now, I'm still worried that he'll find me or find a way to hurt my family. What are my plans when I hit 1 million? Probably start an NFT or something and charge you guys and guilt all of you into purchasing it. Charging $1 quadrillion. That's my legacy as a YouTuber right there, baby. One big Ponzi scheme. Let's go. It's going full NFTs. Nigel Fart Tinkle. Let's Read Plushie. Yeah, I wish that that plushie company would reach out to me. I was asking Lazy Masquerade about it, and I think he said that they like reached out to him. Let's Read Bored Apes. What's Bored Apes? Oh, the NFT. You probably could, using Midjourney, like create. I don't know. I don't really understand. I still don't understand the NFT thing. Like, I've looked into it, how that all plays out, and it still just makes zero sense to me. Because like at the end of the day, when you transfer it from one person to the next, each person along the transaction line has to like agree to like purchasing it, right? I just don't. Doesn't that just mean that each person along the sales line has kind of been duped into something? I don't get it. It all just seems like one giant. And the fact that like every celebrity, isn't it so funny? That's always like my favorite thing. Is like a lot of the times Twitter like thinks they're so fucking like coy with their intelligent takes on things, without realizing that most of their opinions are just like carefully crafted for them by like Hollywood or whatever the fuck. And then the one time Twitter has like a hot take where they like hate, as a congruent hive mind, like all hate NFTs, that exact fucking like Hollywood, sort of like think tank all shit out a bunch of like NFT propaganda bullshit, like you need to go buy it, like Tom Brady and all those fucking weirdos. I just thought that was really funny. Like, of all the things that like pop culture could push out onto people and just show them that they don't really give a fuck about anything other than like, making a profit, it's NFTs. And honestly, if people haven't opened their mind to the fact that like these sort of like establishment hierarchies don't really give a fuck about them by now, you think the NFT would have been the thing that like really opened their brain a little bit, but I don't think it does. I'll get paid $300 million to tell people something worthless is worth it. Yeah, I mean, people do it all the time. Value is relative, and everything has some value, but nothing is valuable. I guess, like, at the end of the day, like, yeah, I mean, the relativity of value, comes down to a few things, like meeting your needs, food and shelter and all that kind of shit. And sometimes physical goods make sense, and then especially like quality physical goods. But at the end of the day, when it comes to currency, the fact that we've arrived at this really weird spot where you can just the printers go brr, just fucking print out as much money as possible, and make the value of it less and less every single fucking day. It's just a big joke. It's all some strange abstract. I almost feel like in some ways it's like, how can you print out enough so that you don't completely like, create the eventual like chaotic event where everybody just loses trust in the banking systems? Because that's kind of what I'm afraid of, like based on what you've seen with that Silicon Valley bullshit and various other ones. It's just like the second that cascade of like bank runs and like lack of trust from the public happens, I feel like that's where things get pretty chaotic. But I guess also that's probably like what's kind of put into place, anticipating that they're going to push people to a fucking some sort of digital currency or some shit. I don't fucking know. Anyways, more Japanese stuff. I was just Bitcoin lucky was enough for weed online, so I doubled up before the rise. Nice, dude. Yeah, imagine those people. Remember that one guy like paid, is like, I remember seeing a story like he bought a pizza for 9 Bitcoin, but that was back in like 2005 or something. I got a nice voice. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate you. This happened when I was driving north of Kyoto, and I had a couple of friends in the car with me. It was late, a little after 1 a.m., I think. My friends and I would often go on night excursions. We would drive around with much intention. We would drive around with much intention. We just went wherever. Okay. We would just drive around with much intention and just drive wherever. We usually ended up in the middle of nowhere. but thank God for GPS. We were driving through a pretty quiet area, and there was a lot of distance between the houses that we passed. It was a dark night in late autumn. There was a red light up ahead, and the car in front slowed to a stop, and I did too. I was looking ahead, and I noticed something about the car. The trunk looked like it was open a little. I looked closer and realized that it was. It wasn't really my issue, so I started to look away, but just as I did, something unexpected happened. A man wearing pajamas rolled out from the trunk and onto the road before the light changed to green. He was a slim middle-aged man by the look of it. His hands were tied behind his back, and he had a gag in his mouth. It was incredibly shocking to see. He rose to his feet, wobbled a little, and then started walking unsteadily towards my car. He looked utterly terrified. His eyes were dark with fear, and his face a twisted plea of desperation. He was on the verge of tears. No, I'll never forget that. You can't forget seeing something like that. His eyes locked with mine and passed over my friends in the car, and we were all stunned into silence. The driver's side and the passenger side doors of the car in front opened, and 2 men emerged from the car, and they walked towards the man from the trunk. They quickly and easily caught him. The driver then pulled something out of his pocket. It was a firearm. He struck the man, and the other man caught him before he fell on the ground. It was raining that night, and all the windows of the car were shut, but we could all hear the sound of the butt of that gun connecting with the man in the pajama's head. It was a sickening crack. The 2 men then returned the man to where he crawled out from the trunk. They slammed it shut, looked over their shoulders at us very quickly, and then they returned to their car. The light turned green and they stepped on it. The light turned green and they twerked, baby. This is the song that was playing in the fucking car as they drove away. Red-headed stepchild with a big 50 bucka-rhinos. Thank you, redhead. Appreciate ya. Let's go, dude. Twerkity twerk, 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 twerk. No message to go along with it, but if you do have one, please do at me. Be more than happy to read it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. The light turned green and they stepped on it. What story are we on? I think this is... We got like 2 more after this, I think. The light turned green and they stepped on it. We were stunned and we just sat in the car, wide-eyed, and stared ahead at the now open road. Then a car from behind's horn jolted us back to reality. We drove ahead and then pulled over to call the police. I was told to wait where I was for an officer to arrive. It took about 10 minutes, and during that time, my friends and I were pretty much silent, as we had nothing to say. We all told the officer when he arrived about what had happened. He asked for me to go with him to the police station, and I was more than happy to help in any capacity that I could, and I was interviewed there for over an hour. Over the next few days and weeks, I religiously watched the news, expecting to hear something about what happened that night, but I never heard anything. What happened seemed so unrealistic. It was like a scene from a film. I would question my recollection if it wasn't for my friends being in the car with me when it happened. I was young at the time, and I think seeing that incident for the first time was when I realized that the so-called dark side of the world really does exist. One of the post-apocalyptic stories. We are getting there, don't you worry. Every day we near inches closer to midnight. Inches. When you look at that clock, you measure it in inches. Yeah, we got 3 more stories. Ano, welcome. When a joke go from push-ups to twerking. It's a much better cardio workout. This happened when I was 14. I'm 34 now, and this is a story about a relative of mine, and we'll just call her Mrs. A. When I was a child, Mrs. A's husband passed away. She used to be very talkative and outgoing, however, after the loss of her husband, her personality changed. She became very quiet and distant. One night, towards the end of basketball practice, I think it was about 8:30 p.m., I saw Mrs. A stood at the gym doors. Although I hadn't seen her for quite a few years, I recognized her. At first, I said to one of the teachers, "She's a relative of mine." My teacher bowed and walked over to her. They began a conversation. My teacher walked back over to me with a serious look on his face. "I just heard that your father's been in a serious car accident." I was speechless. "Your relative over there has come to take you to the hospital. Please go ahead." I was mortified. I managed to get into Mrs. A's car. Her car pulled away from the school, speeding down the dark streets, and I began to ask Mrs. A many questions. "Where's my dad?" "Hospital." "Where's the hospital?" "A little bit further from here." "What kind of condition is he in?" "I don't really know." I was shocked by her blunt and uncomforting answers. She was solely focused on driving. I felt no warmth from her, and she seemed heartless to me. We were heading into the suburbs. The further we drove, the more suspicious I became. I live in a rural area in the mountains, and I knew that all the main hospitals are in the city. Once you head towards the mountains, there aren't any hospitals until the next city over, which is far. Every time I started talking to her or asking questions, she just replied with the same blunt answer, "Yeah." I started to wonder if the woman driving the car was really my relative. We were no longer driving on the city roads. Shops and houses were getting scarcer and scarcer. I knew that before long we would be really far into the countryside. I saw the glow of a home center's lights. Nani? He's getting kidnapped. Just a little bit of kidnapping. I saw the glow of a home center's lights up ahead. It was still open. I quickly said, "Oh, I forgot. I have to call my teacher. He asked me to do him a favor. I'll have to let him know. I can't now." I managed to get her to pull over at the home center. I burst out of her car and into the home center. I thought that I wouldn't be seen from inside. I looked through the store's windows and I saw Mrs. A's car in the parking lot. She wasn't in the driver's seat. She was walking towards the store. I had a terrible feeling when I saw her approaching. I ran to the other side of the store and sprinted through the exit doors onto the streets. Luckily, a taxi was approaching. I ran in front of his car and got him to stop. I told him my address and I was on my way back home. When I finally arrived home, my mom paid the taxi fare. I walked into my house and I saw my father sat in the living room drinking a beer and watching TV. "Why are you breathing heavily? What's with that look on your face?" he asked. As I explained to him what happened, his face turned pale. He looked terribly concerned. Apparently, when Mrs. A's husband passed away, she suffered a nervous breakdown and she was admitted into the hospital. She lost contact with the family because many family members grew worried by her strange behavior. My father said that because she doesn't have her own children, she was always alone and perhaps that affected her mental state or made her interested in me. First, my father called her home phone number. No answer. In those days, mobile phones weren't popular and she didn't have one. Then my father called Mrs. A's family home. Her mother answered, my grandma's sister, and told us that Mrs. A had been absent from her part-time job and they had just called to ask where she was. Because of her strange behavior, others seemed to have stopped interacting with her. Communication with her had been held back. The next day, the police searched her home, and in their report they noted that Mrs. A's purse and various valuable items were left there. They were at a loss as to the location of Mrs. A and her car, or what current status they were in. They did find lots of empty cans and bottles of alcohol in her home and prescription drugs. And now it's 20 years later. We haven't seen or heard from Mrs. A, and no one knows her whereabouts. Perhaps I was the last person to see her alive through the window of that home center. Due to the long absence, in the eyes of the law, nothing can be done about her or her attempted abduction. I can't help imagine what could have happened to me if on that day, if I didn't get out of that car. And also, where was she planning on taking me? I wonder sometimes if she's out there stalking me, watching me, and I have so many unanswered questions. I feel so stupid to tell you the truth. Lame, to be honest, but worth the try here. What's the truth? These translated stories are written better than most. Yeah, it does seem that way. J Nightmare has done a good job. Alright, 2 more stories to go. How's my cat? He's good. He is. I see him over there. I have like a blanket on the one couch, and like he starts to like rummage through it, kind of like moving it around with his nose, because it seems he's planning on having sex with it. Oh, he heard me. I'm very beautiful and interesting, intelligent, if we're so lucky. Yeah, right, Emily. What are you talking about? Excuse me. When do we get a pretty reveal? He's on quite a few social media. The more recent one that he was on, I guess, that you could probably find easy, is on TikTok. He's the cat. Okay. You people are keeping me up. Sorry. Alright. Time to do something. I want to share with you an experience I had in an apartment I lived in about 2 years ago. When I was house hunting, I was looking for a place which was cheap, and I didn't mind a place that had a bit of an edge to it. A real estate company was keen to show me an apartment. It was a pretty small place, but it had a loft, nice sun coverage too. The cool thing about the place was the vast amount of storage space that it offered due to the high ceilings, and it was a great location. I literally had no complaints, so I went ahead and told them that I'd take the apartment right there on the spot. And boy, was that a mistake. Back then I had a cat, and I'm going to be completely honest here and hold my hands up and say, I forgot to let them know that I had a pat. What if I'm an AI voice? Well, that's what I worry, is that a lot of people wonder when AI is going to take over. But what if I told you that AI took over a long time ago? And who you're interacting with here right now might not be quite what it seems. Back then, I had a cat, and I'm going to be completely honest here and hold my hands up and say that I forgot to let them know that I had a pet. In my defense, they never really asked. I felt guilty about it, but I didn't want to lose this great new place or give up my cat. It was tough. I thought for all parties involved, it might be for the best to just keep my mouth shut and see if anyone noticed. After meeting some of the residents and introducing myself, I went to take a look around the area to see what was available. I wanted to acclimate myself and find my go-to stores. I liked the neighbors, and they seemed to be welcoming. After all the moving was done, I was exhausted, so that night I didn't unpack anything but the bare essentials. My cat was acting pretty weird. She was by the front door and was hissing occasionally. I put this down to her being in a new place, so I didn't pay it much mind. But then my cat did this weird, kind of low groan voice. I'm sure you're familiar with the sound that I'm trying to describe, and that weirded me out a little more because she doesn't usually do that. I guess that there might be another cat in the area or something, so I tried to ignore it and get some sleep, and I went to sleep pretty quickly due to the move. But my cat wouldn't stop this low growling night after night, so one night I tiptoed over to her and tried to figure out what was upsetting her. I knew that there was something on the other side of the door. I'm not talking about something supernatural. I'm talking about something human. You know when you see the shadowy outline of feet in the gap beneath the door? That's what I saw. I really wanted to throw the door open and confront whoever was out there, but the risks were too great and I didn't feel safe. Whoever was out there wasn't a normal person. Who stands in front of someone? We live in a simulation. For a second, I thought he was talking about Pradeep. What about Pradeep? He is also AI. Whoever was out there wasn't a normal person. Who stands in front of someone's door in the dead of night? I was really terrified. I feel like I need to read that again. Whoever was out there wasn't a normal person. Who stands in front of someone's door in the dead of night? I was really terrified. I was living alone as a young female, and someone was out there for reasons not known to me. The only thing I could do was head back into my bedroom with my cat and hide out until the morning. My cat kept on growling, and I barely slept that night. From then on, sleep was hard to come by, so I wanted to get out of that apartment, but I was locked into a long-term deal that I couldn't get out of without losing a load of money. I didn't have any family to turn to either. I would be able to move in 3 months, so I just held on to that thought. I was so stressed out by the situation that I went to see a doctor, and he told me that I was suffering from stress. I had lost weight too. I stayed with a friend for a couple of days until I was a burden, and then I went back to my apartment. I decided to show my face more in the apartment complex in the hopes that I would get along better with my neighbors. I also wanted them to know that I was okay, just in case they were worrying. I said hello as I bumped into them, and I was shocked to realize that every single one of them ended up in one way or another talking about my cat or cats in general. Let me give you a couple of examples. You know that cats aren't allowed in this building, right? That's crazy, right? Well, I just thought that you should know. I'd never dream of bringing a pet in here with the landlord's approval. Oh, that sounded weird. I'd never dream of bringing a pet in here without the landlord's approval. I'm sure you feel the same. You know that the landlord... Why does it sound so weird? You know that the landlord hates cats, right? I couldn't believe it at first. Did you know that? I never took my cat out of the room. She's an indoor cat. How on earth did they know? It's not like she was causing any trouble either. I was a proud cat owner and I took really good care of her. I was sick of these so not so. I was sick of these not so subtle comments, so when the next person asked me, I replied, "How did you know I had a cat?" I thought that they would feign ignorance, but my neighbor's reply really shocked me, because we all took turns watching. And this is where the story gets absolutely nuts. Apparently, the landlord ordered the other residents to keep an eye on me. My neighbors said that the second I returned home from work, someone was ordered to keep watch. The creepiest thing about this was the fact that she wasn't even embarrassed or found it strange that she was ordered to do so. She proudly and smugly said that she found my cat in there when she lifted up the mail slot in the door to look inside my apartment. I argued back that when she did, what she did was a complete invasion of my privacy and it was totally insane. All of my arguments were met with the same reply. We're only doing what the landlord told us. It was a total regime and it was deeply disturbing. Total regime. It was like a total setup and it was deeply disturbing. This landlord had them all brainwashed. Since this neighbor of mine was content to tell me everything, I asked more and more, and her smug smile widened each time she knew that it was getting to me. The landlord told him to go through my mail to find out more about me. When I heard that I decided. I see. When I heard that, I decided enough was enough. I called the real estate agency immediately and told them I was leaving, and thankfully they were sympathetic, and thankfully I didn't lose any money. I now knew why such a great place and a great location was so cheap. I guess I can laugh about it now, and it's a story to tell, but I still find it deeply disturbing. Nowadays, I'm living in a better place. No weirdos outside, no issues with pets, and no insane landlord. Sometimes a good place is worth the price, and if something is too good to be true, it usually is. Yippee! Okay. Alright. One story left, my friends. One story left here, so I am going to take my sleepy sleep pills, which is just magnesium, but I will be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. Yo. You like the pooping song? Does it make you want to poop? Dark Souls lobby in 8-bit space. Does Dark Souls have lobbies? Or just like the main menu screen? Yeah, that's me floating above the shitter, meditating as poop comes up my butt. In many ways, I kind of do hope that AI gets like really fucking, I don't know, really good. And then they, I don't know, they turn one into a vacuum cleaner or something. All right. So this is the last story of the night, but what's his name? Jay Nightmare is also going to narrate a story in tomorrow's video, so it's going to be, should be the typical length. You're living in the singularity now. Have you melded your body with machine yet? Waiting. Any day now. Chop chop. The final story. TM. What about the girth? What about the girth? I'll ever hear. Who the fuck is Jay Nightmare? Exactly. You soon will know about him. But he translated all these stories tonight for the video tomorrow, and he's going to be narrating a story at the end. His voice is quite good, quite good. This happened a few years ago. My husband's a truck driver, and this meant that he was always on the road. He would be away 6 months out of the year. This happened just after my eldest daughter was born. It was really a tough time for me. I was really busy with childcare, my part-time work, and keeping the house clean. I wasn't sleeping much at all those days. The lack of sleep was making me agitated and easily annoyed. We had a tiny apartment and the walls were thin. The neighbors were noisy too, but they were quick to get angry at any noise from our apartment. My daughter would cry and scream so loud, and so the neighbors wouldn't yell at me, I would take her out. Oh, so the neighbors would. The translator. My daughter would cry and scream so loud, and so the neighbors wouldn't yell at me, I would take her outside into the alley no matter what time of night it was. On the night in question, my daughter was screaming the place down, so as usual I took her outside. I always thought the cool air would help. I think it was around 1 a.m. I was cradling my daughter in the dark alley. I was tired and I had work in the morning. After about half an hour, she seemed to be drifting off to sleep, so I decided to head back to the apartment. I put my daughter in her crib and walked into the living room and sat down. I remember I was just staring off into space, thinking about how tired and how lonely life felt. I sat in my dark living room with a glass of milk in my hand, listening to the distant rumble of a car outside. Then, I heard a weird noise. Something metal scraping against metal. It was weird, but I thought that it was a street noise, possibly from the cars driving up and down the street. I couldn't afford to pay it any attention, though. It wouldn't stop. I knew that I should have just gone in search of the source of the sound, but I just didn't have the motivation to get up. So from my chair, I leaned forward and took a look. It sounded like it was coming from the front door. I heard that metal scraping sound followed by a new squeaking sound. Then I saw my doorknob start to turn slowly. Someone was picking my lock. They might have been watching me in the alley or saw me go in. They must know that it's just me and my baby, alone. My heart began to thunder in my chest, and my hand was trembling so much that I spilled the milk all over the floor. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Please don't come in. Please leave me and my baby alone, I thought. I was frozen. I couldn't move, I just kept my eyes focused on the door. The lock clicked. It was in that position to open. The door was now unlocked. I looked towards the chain. I usually forget to put the chain on the door. This time, You bought a cat from Spain? Interesting. Did you bring it home on a plane, or? Because I feel like that would be a long trip for a kitty cat. This time I hadn't forgotten, and my body allowed me to breathe. I knew I shouldn't get up and turn the light. Maybe just by doing that would be enough to frighten the intruder off. I don't know if that was just wishful thinking. I couldn't do it anyway. I was too scared to move. The handle to the door slowly opened, allowing street light into my apartment. I covered my mouth with my hand because I was beginning to hyperventilate. I had my other arm under my armpit, cradling my body, trying not to shake with fear so much. The door opened slowly, but stopped when the chain reached its full extent. In my mind, I was telling this faceless intruder that I had no money and nothing of value. Then, as if in answer to this prayer, as if by telepathy, the door slowly shut without a sound. Suddenly, as if I snapped out of some kind of hypnosis, I was awake and able to move. I hoisted myself up, but my legs were still like jelly. It was as if though I was getting up in installments. It was as if I was getting up in installments. You found your cat in a dumpster. You bought it from a humpster. It was as if though I was getting up in installments. I needed to get to the door and lock it, but before my eyes, the door began to open again. Whoever was out there wasn't giving up. I felt despair in my heart when I saw a huge pair of bolt cutters emerge from the door and aim themselves at the chain. The chain was the only thing which was keeping the intruder out. This is where you die, I thought. This is the end. Then another voice told me to protect my daughter, and that voice was louder, stronger. I screamed, realizing all this pent-up aggression and frustration, releasing. I screamed, releasing all this pent-up aggression and frustration. I didn't care what would happen to me, but I needed someone nearby, in the building, to hear me and help me save my daughter. I wanted to make as much noise as possible. I hurled my glass of milk at the door with all my almond milk. Don't pee in dream toilets. What's a dream toilet? Oh, when you're dreaming. I thought you meant like Dreams Toilet, the YouTuber. I was like, what, does he drink it or something? That'd be a really funny thing to come out. Like, I went over to Dream's house and he told me not to flush the toilet. I don't know why. Turns out, he drinks it. Turns out, it's his face. It's just like his face. Like, his whole face is the toilet, like just secretly like covered in like a terrible disguise. Does magnesium for real help with sleep? Yeah, definitely. You should definitely look up a nice little YouTube video and do some research. And actually, I can tell you the one that I buy on Amazon. It's supposed to like help relax your, I think, sympathetic nervous system. It's supposed to help relax your muscles at night. Let's see, orders. And then magnesium. Jigsaw Health Mag SRT Magnesium Supplement. I don't know. That's the one that I use, at least. Not saying I'm not a doctor or anything. Obviously, consult with them. But I usually take it an hour before bed, and it just kind of helps me fall asleep faster. 5-HTP or tryptophan helps you sleep. Interesting. If you pee in your dreams, you pee the bed. That's the interesting thing is, like, I have peed multiple times in dreams and been terrified when I wake up, like, oh, fuck, did I piss the bed? And I actually haven't, so that's kind of awesome. So it's always weird, like I can feel it in the dream. It's either that or like my bed sheets are just incredibly absorbent, and I've been just like sleeping on a piss bed for years. It turned into a water bed. Evaporation, exactly. Somebody must come in the middle of the night and like slurp it all up or something. The piss fairy. I wanted to make as much noise as possible. I hurled my glass of milk at the door with all my might. The glass actually hit the bolt cutters and the glass exploded everywhere. The owner of the bolt cutters seemed to be so startled that they dropped them and they landed with a clatter at the front door. Then, from behind the door, I heard the sound of someone running as fast as they could. After a while, I crept over to the door and kicked those filthy bolt cutters out and locked it, shaking with adrenaline as I did. I found out later that the university kid next door had heard my screams and came to check, but turned back when he saw that my door was locked and the lights were off. If he had knocked and come to check on me, there would have been no way in God's green earth that I would have answered. I cut my foot on some of the broken glass, and it took about an hour for the tremors to subside, and this is when I decided to call the police. To my surprise, the police arrived in a few minutes, and as soon as I saw the officer's face, I started to uncontrollably cry. I know I sound like a total wuss, but to me, what had happened was so indescribably terrifying. I kept my hand over my mouth as I cried. I didn't want to wake my daughter. Thank God that the intruder left the bolt cutters behind, because the police were able to track the culprit down and arrest him using the crucial... And then they circumcised him with those, I think. I think that's what they do in Japan. If you get caught doing a crime with bolt cutters, they use that to cut off your schlong. Thank God the intruder left the bolt cutters behind, because the police were able to track the culprit down and arrest him using this penis. Fuck. Thank God the intruder left the bolt cutters behind, because the police were able to track the culprit down and arrest him using this crucial piece of evidence. He was a known criminal, part of a gang which had previous arrests for burglary, violence, and even murder cases. I found some information in English which I'll link in the description about the severity of these lockpicking crimes. But everyone remember, keep your doors locked and keep your chain on. It might just save your life. All right, we did it. We did it! Yippee! Schmippy! Yippee! The severity of these lockpicking crimes have been increasing. All right. Bedtime already? It might just be. Time for beddy bye. Get in the fucking bed. Get in the fucking bed and close your eyes. I'm not tired. I don't care. Pretend to sleep. And so I did. I pretended to sleep for 8 hours straight until the sun came up, because I was too scared to sleep. Alright, let me read this outro, and I need you guys to tell me something funny, and it better be funny. If it's not funny, you're banned. So I need something funny to say at the end. Can you do a Lewis accent from Resident Evil 4 again? Lewis. Which one's he? Lewis. Oh. Resident Evil 4. Is it the girl? Lewis' secret deal with Ada Wong. Wait, who's Lewis? Is he the main character? Wait, is it the main character? I thought that was Leon. Or no? Leon, I got it. Ugh. Oh, he got stabbed in the back. Ugh. That's probably Jesus. It's like a huge fucking crab claw just went into his like chest. How's all Lewis cutscenes? Here we go. I don't remember Lewis from the game. Somehow like completely missed him from the old one. Even though I never played through the game, I always feel like I watched. Little rough, don't you think? He sounds like Puss in Boots. You're not like them? Okay. I have only one very important question. Alright, yeah. Well, that's cool. Lewis seems nice. Sucks you have to get killed by a crab claw or whatever happened. Spoilers. Leon, the professional. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Click that notification bell to be alerted of all future I don't know, I'm having so much trouble enunciating bullshit. Hey friends, thanks for listening. Click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. I release new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. EST, and there are super fun live streams every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night, and I'd love to see you there. If you got a story, be sure to submit them to my subreddit, r/Let'sReadOfficial, and maybe even hear your story featured on the next video. And if you want to support me even more, grab early access to all future narrations and bonus content over on Patreon, or click that big join button to hear about the extra perks offered for the channel. And check out the Let's Read podcast, where you can hear all of these stories in big compilations and save huge on data, located anywhere you listen to podcasts. Links in the description below. Thanks so much, friends. Death by crab claw is a preferred way to go. Yes, it feels good. That's like death by schnoo. Don't move the suitcase. And remember, let's play steel drums. That would be good. Unfortunately, they're remaking 4 now. It should be good. It comes out, isn't it out now? Yeah. I think it's like out now in a couple of hours. If you shoot Lewis 3 times during the cabin fight, he kills you. Really? Interesting. I saw that, well, no, I don't want to, actually that would be a spoiler for the remake, but I saw something from it that was kind of sad. But it is what it is. Alright. What should we have people remember? Thanks for the live. Sweet dreams and flying machines all. Thank you. Why did the skeleton not go to the party? Okay, maybe we can end it with a joke. Has there been gym horror stories? There have, yeah. Just have to do a little searching on the little search bar area. Remember that cheese doesn't grow on trees. Alright, we'll do that. Thanks so much, friends. And remember... fuck. Yeah, don't pee in dream toilets. Thanks so much, friends. And remember, don't pee in dream toilets, 'cause he'll drink it. Uh-oh. Then the dream stands will come slit my fucking throat. No! They all like bust through the door and drag me away. Help! Or like, they're like the characters from Resident Evil 4. Es por la buena! You know. Hola, Corella! You know, whenever they're like yelling their stuff. Like the clock tower goes off and all the dream stands come out. Oh, Jesus Christ. We need your piss. We need your piss for dream. Alright, anyways. Love you guys, appreciate ya. I'm only joking around. This I took niacin too, and now everything fucking itches. It's terrible, but it's supposed to be good for you. I'm probably just taking like cyanide at this point. I'm sure you could convince me to take that. Anyways, appreciate you guys. Love you. I'm going to get this edited up on Patreon. It's only $1 a month over there for early access. You can even do a free trial. And then I will go ahead and get this up on YouTube. Be sure to go subscribe to J Nightmare, the letter J, the word nightmare. He transcribed and translated all these stories tonight, and he's going to be in the end. He is going to be at the end of tomorrow's video, or today's video. So be sure to show him some love and respect in the comments. His voice is really good. At least I really like it. So hope you will too. And yeah, I'll probably be back streaming this Sunday. So be sure to hit that notification bell to be alerted every time shit goes live and shit hits the fan, baby. We'd love to see you there. All right, friends. Peace out, bean sprouts. Hasta la pasta. Adios.